Welcome everybody to the Houston Area Visually Impaired Network. This is the Zoom session. My name is Raul Gallegos, and helping me here today is Terrence and Chelsea.
Hello.
Hey.
Thank you, guys. Ron is not here today. He is, I think, having a vacation, so a much needed vacation. So we all need those. So Terrence is going to be the host of the day, where he will help with hand raising and with questions and with assisting people to mute and unmute and all that good stuff. And Chelsea and I will be your friendly presenters today to talk about this Zoom workshop and Zoom machine and how it all works. The irony has not escaped me that if you are trying to learn how to use Zoom, you kind of need to know how to use Zoom to participate in the Zoom session. So this will benefit those of you who have some Zoom experience, and it will also benefit those who listen to the recording later from the YouTube channel or wherever who may not have Zoom already. One of the things I'm going to do is talk about some of the technical side of things that Zoom has to offer. That's going to be the first part. And once we're done talking about all the technical geeky stuff, we're going to switch to the more practical stuff. And that's where Chelsea is going to take over with that. And Chelsea, do you want to share a little bit about what areas you're going to talk about in terms of the practical?
Yeah, so for my part, it's more about like how to get your camera set up, your lighting, what kind of lighting you should be having, how to really help yourself look the best, even though for those of you who have no vision or low vision may not be able to see yourselves on screen, but those who are sighted can, and just kind of equip you with all of that to help you look your best and be very presentable. Since we are living in an age right now where, due to social distancing and everything, we this is the way of the world now. So we just want you all to be prepared.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
So one of the things I'm going to do, for example, to give an idea of some of the ways that Chelsea and I are going to work together and put all this together, is I will say something like, well, if I'm on my Windows computer, I will press Alt-V to turn my video on or off. And so right now my video is off. I just started my video, and then Chelsea might say, well, Raul, your camera's at a slight angle, or I might ask Chelsea for a video check, and she might tell me, that the angle's a little off, or maybe the lighting isn't correct, or something to that effect. And so can you do a video check here for me, Chelsea? How's it going?
Yeah, no, actually your lighting is great. For those of you who can see Raul, there's light facing him and not behind him. So that's a really big key factor that a lot of people don't realize, is when you have light behind you, like a window or something, it causes a backlighting, which makes your face dark, but the background light. And so it's really hard for people to see you that way. If you're sitting, like I can see Cheryl Goodnight's screen, and she's got a windows to her back and windows to her left, but the window is covered in the back and it's bringing lighting in from the side, which is still okay. So it's things like that that are like key factors. And then also Raul is perfectly centered in the screen. Centered, meaning center up and down as well as side to side. So I can see his whole face and the top of his chest, which is perfect. Sometimes people also want to be able to see your body, hand movements and gestures too, but we'll get more into that later. And Raul looks great, and he's putting up his hands in a Vulcan sign.
Vulcan salute.
Hey, I'm a Trekkie too, so don't think you stumped me. But yeah, so things like that are really good. People really want to be able to see your body language as well as your facial expressions, making eye contact. So, turning towards the screen to the sound of the voice so that people can see you. even if you can't see them. It's just really, really important. So you're great, great visual appearance, Raul.
Thank you.
You did your homework. Proud of you.
I do Zoom so much that I don't even think about it. And that's the whole point, is you want to try to get to the point of when you do Zoom, whether you're doing video or audio or both, that you don't stress about it, you don't think about it, and you just do it like normal. And so,
Yeah, but a large part of what Raul and I are talking about today is preparedness. So there's a lot of homework that everybody needs to do before you actually get on a call. And, whether it's getting on a call with a friend or a family member, to just do these video or audio checks with you, or somebody like me or a sighted friend or something like that. It's just really important, because if you don't prepare, what is that little motto? If you don't prepare, then you prepare to, if you don't, you prepare to fail if you don't prepare, or something like that, whatever to that effect. So it's all about getting it all set up and ready, and learning the gestures that Raul is going to talk to you about, all the short keys, all the commands and controls, and then add my visual aspect of it, and then you're going to be great to go.
That's interesting, Chelsea. I wonder if
all right. So before we get started, I'm going to talk about one of the features that Zoom has, and hopefully you can do it. If you can't, that's okay, but it'll be interesting to share the results, and that is a poll. So Zoom has a feature where you can ask people questions and people can vote on those answers, and this gives the presenters an idea of some of these answers. So for those of you who are connected through an app or the website or anything like that, you should be able to see those polls pop up on your screen now, and they are voluntary to answer. You don't have to put your name or anything like that if you don't want to, but I think it will show me who did what, because I didn't make the poll anonymous. But essentially, the poll has 3 questions, and those questions are: how long have you been using Zoom? The second question is, how do you typically access Zoom, like from what device? And then the third question is, are you interested in learning more about participating in Zoom or hosting or both? And so I'll leave the poll up and running for people to take that as they need to, and eventually I will close that poll. But I just wanted to share a little bit of that and see what kind of results we get throughout the session. So what is Zoom? Let's go ahead and start at the very basics. So Zoom is essentially a communications platform that many people had never even heard of until COVID happened. I'm one of the people that has been using Zoom since about 1.5 years or 2 before COVID. And so for me, Zoom is not really all that new. And for some people, Zoom is something that they had to start using last year, right around this time. And then others have been using it on and off throughout the year, and hence the question as to how long you've been using it for. Zoom is what I would call a conference call on steroids. And the reason I would call it that is because you can still use Zoom as a traditional conference call, where you dial in from a landline or mobile phone number. You call in one of the many different conference numbers that are available, and you then dial in the conference ID or Zoom ID number, which is a 9 or a 10 or an 11-digit number, and then you connect with others and everybody can communicate with each other. So that is what Zoom is at the very basic level, but then you have all these other enhancements that have been done to Zoom, where people can share files, share videos, share their screen, share their camera, share both. You can control another person's computer. You can ask for help. There's all types of features. We are not going to have time to cover every technical aspect of Zoom. We're not going to have time to cover Zoom webinars. That is something that's also available with panelists and participants in a panel. So we're not going to have time for that. So the main thing that we're going to cover today is how to participate and how to do some basic hosting in a regular, what I would consider a regular Zoom meeting, similar to what this one is. Everyone is dialed in, everyone has equal rights for the most part in terms of a participant, for example. everybody could unmute themselves right now, and everybody could mute themselves, you know, so you have that control because we're allowing that. And knowing how to do those things is where it's important. Knowing why you should do those things is where it's important. If you're going to participate in a Zoom meeting with a family member or a family get together of some kind, you know, maybe knowing how to help with the hosting or just how to join in. Maybe there's a local chapter meeting for, you know, NFB or ACB or another group, HAVIN, VIPSET, etc., and they meet on Zoom. So you'll want to know how to do that. Maybe it's a meeting for work, for maybe a job interview. Maybe it is your work and you're doing Zoom meetings. Zoom is not the only conference system that is out there right now. I would say that the 3 most popular ones today are going to be Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Google Hangouts or Google Meet. And there are others. There's WebEx, there's Cisco, there's one from IBM. You know, so there's Skype, you know, there's FaceTime, you can do Facebook Messenger, you can do WhatsApp. There's all kinds of ways to do very similar things, but Zoom is one of the standards, and one of the reasons why we like Zoom as blind and visually impaired folks is because it is accessible and it's easy to learn as both a participant and a host. So you'll notice that I did not give instructions on how to mute or unmute or any of that. I didn't ask people to stay muted while they're not talking. And I kind of did that on purpose just because of the fact that we are going to be talking about those things throughout the session. So first, how do you join a Zoom meeting? So Zoom has made it as easy as possible to join a meeting. Even if you don't have the Zoom program installed, you can still join a meeting from a computer. And when I say computer, I am meaning Mac or Windows. You can join a Zoom meeting from an iPhone, an iPad, an Android tablet, an Android phone, and you can dial in, of course. So you don't have to have anything special. You don't have to have an account. You don't have to pay them a single penny to join a Zoom meeting. If you join from a computer like a Mac or a Windows PC, there will be a small applet or Zoom client program that downloads and allows you to connect. If you go to zoom.us/downloads, you can download the client yourself and install it like a regular program and then start to use it. So if you mainly access Zoom, or you want to mainly access Zoom from an iOS device like an iPad or iPhone, or an Android device like a phone or tablet that's Android like LG, Samsung, etc., you can go to the Play Store and download the free Zoom app there, or you can go to the App Store for the Apple devices and download it there and use it. So there are a few suggested settings that I would like to recommend that you make as a Zoom participant. So what I'm going to do is share my screen with everyone, and in doing so, I'm going to also go through the Zoom settings. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I am going to go through several of them in order to show you what some of the settings to you know, that you can do are. But before I get into that, let me go ahead and just take a quick break and ask if anyone has any questions or needs some clarification on any of the stuff that has been mentioned so far.
You do have a couple of early raised hands that have been up a while, actually. It's
Okay.
Louis Maurer
Yeah,
and
Louis.
Nicole Friendly.
Okay, Roll, I'm not seeing the poll on my Windows machine.
So
Any thoughts?
Yeah, so if you're not seeing the poll, you want to make sure that you are focused on the Zoom meeting window.
Yeah.
Insert T should say Zoom meeting, and you might
Yes.
have to hit F6 to change your focus around in that to get to the polls.
I was tabbing around quite a bit too. This is Ted, and I wasn't able to find it either.
I'm on an iPhone and I didn't see it either.
Not there, I don't take it.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's not there, Raul.
Okay. Let me hit relaunch again. Let's try it again here.
There it is.
There. Okay. So technology is fun when it works and frustrating when it doesn't. So I had to relaunch it a second time.
There it goes. Also, Raul, just on a housekeeping note, could you make Chelsea a co-host? Co-host can't make other co-hosts.
Oh, they changed that. I see. Okay, let me take care of that.
And the next question in the meantime will be Nicole. So you can go ahead and unmute, and he'll let you know when he's ready for you.
There we go. And Nicole, you had a question?
Yes, I'm also having trouble with the poll.
Okay, they should be up now. And if
Hey,
not, you might
Wayne.
have to tab around or press F6 if you're on a, are you on a Windows computer or an iPhone? What are you dialing in from?
I'm on a Windows.
Okay, so yep, just make sure that you're in the Zoom info or Zoom meeting window, and then try either tabbing till you get to them or pressing F6 to get to the polls, because they're up and running now for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, they are up now. And next would be Ted.
All right.
Oh, I was just saying the same thing as the original person that the poll didn't get live. So that I can load up my hand. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. And Cheryl.
Yes. How do you get to the poll? I pushed F6 and then I tried arrowing and that didn't work.
Yeah, so if it's not coming up, it is possible that it went out of focus, because they're definitely up and running now. You might try, and this is good for everybody to try in case you're having trouble, in the Zoom meeting window, if you press Alt F as in Frank, if you're on Windows, that will turn the Zoom meeting into a full screen, and you should be able to find it then.
Do we find it with the arrows or tab?
Tab.
I'm cheating. I got low vision, but I filled it out and it worked. So.
Okay, next is Elisa.
All right, Elisa, what's your question?
Don't have to deal with it. She ain't even got the sugar. So now I need to use
Raul Lewis.
Yes.
I'm looking at the poll. I did find it, and it's like on more than 1 year, and it says RBT, which I assume is button, and I'm hitting enter, and I'm not sure anything's happening. How do you activate that button?
Normally, it's just the space bar.
Okay. And does it tell you if you selected, if something happened?
It's supposed to say selected, and then you press tab afterward.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's see.
So one of the things that I have noticed, and this
This is
kind of
Elisa.
Yes, Elisa.
So I'm on the iPhone and I trying to select it like for the first question, but I can't select it correctly.
I agree.
Okay.
I can't either.
Yep.
Sorry, Raul.
That's
I
okay.
can't even see the poll.
If you're not able to see
Because I
it,
see the first question that you put, I'm trying to select my option, but I cannot do it on the iPhone.
Once you select it, it should have like a next or continue button. But if it's not showing up, that also could be a number of other factors, like what version of the app you're running. It could be that maybe it timed out. It's hard to say.
I can also add that the next version visually pops up at the bottom, so you might have to swipe all the way down before you see the next, before it comes into focus.
Yep, next button. Okay. Yeah, it's visually sometimes it disappears or it's not there, so you have to do a little bit of swiping or 3-finger swipe up. That will also typically work.
Oh, okay.
This is Ted. I did. This is Ted. I did successfully get through the 3-question poll, and with the first question, I answered the first answer just hitting space. Then I shift tab back to the question and then down arrow to question number 2, tab through to the radio button I wanted, hit space, and then shift tab. And then I did that for all 3. And then finally tab to submit and hit space bar on submit. So it should have gone through correctly.
And you have Edwin and Glenda left with hands up if you want to go ahead and look.
All right, well,
those,
so we're going to go ahead. I don't want to spend too much time troubleshooting that because we do need to cover a lot of other technical areas, and this is just one of those kind of side things. So if they're working, great. If not, I don't know why they're not. You know, so I'm not really sure what else to suggest.
Raul, you've spent more time with the computer than you have with us on the iPhone now.
Yep, and I'm getting ready to cover all those other areas. Okay, so I'm going to talk about some of the settings. These are going to be done both from the computer aspect and from the iPhone and mobile device aspect. So first, I'm going to share my screen. And I'm sharing my sound as well. Okay, so everybody should get my screen now.
Zoom row 1 call.
And
Zoom
I'm going to go over to Zoom.
List expanded alert. Search edit. Zoom. RGA tech.
Okay, so everybody should hear my speech now, and everyone should be able to see it if you have it up in terms of if you have enough vision to be able to see that. So once I have the Zoom app running, and right now, like I said, I'm mainly talking about the Windows or the Mac, you're going to use your normal screen reader navigation, whether that's tab, whether that's voice over left or right. You'll have to interpret that for yourself for the PC portion of it. So I am already signed into my Zoom account. I recommend that even if you're not going to pay for a Zoom service, that you sign up for a free Zoom account, whether you create an email address and password, sign in, or whether you link it with Facebook or Google. That is completely up to you. I personally recommend just creating your own password, you know, with your primary email address, and have a separate sign in rather than linking them together. But you know, that's up to you on how you do that. So the Zoom app itself has several different tabs, and those tabs are typically going to be home and chat and meetings and contacts. And so the home tab, as you tab through it, you're going to get buttons like
Setting button.
Settings.
Return to meeting button.
There's a return to meeting just because I'm running a meeting.
Schedule button.
There's schedule. So if I wanted to schedule a meeting.
Saturday, March 20.
It gives me the date.
Change background image. So
I can change my background image.
HAVIN Zoom workshop.
And there's the HAVIN Zoom workshop.
Tab control. Home tab selected checked.
And there's my tab control. All right, so that's if I wanted to go to the other meeting. So I'm going to tab over to that setting button.
List Zoom. Setting button.
And I'm going to press the space bar.
Settings window.
Okay, so now that I'm in the settings window, I'm going to press tab.
List. General selected.
Okay, so there are a few settings to change, and primarily these concern with audio and video. I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to go through every single setting, but I'm going to mainly go through the ones that are going to get you up and running with minimal fuss on most meetings. So I'm going to arrow down.
Video selected.
To video, and we're going to go over video first. So I'm going to press enter, and now video is selected. So the way the Zoom settings work on the Mac or Windows is that when you make the setting change, you typically don't have to do OK or save or apply. That is true for most cases in the Zoom session or experience. There are some areas that it does have a save or update button, but those are typically made pretty clearly. In the case of the settings themselves, you usually don't have to do that. So I'm in video now, and I'm going to start tabbing. And if it's a setting that I recommend changing or looking into, then I'll stop there, but I'm not going to explain every single one.
Rotate 90 degrees. Camera grouping.
Tab.
Camera HP wide. Original ratio check. HD checkbox not. My video grouping. Mirror my video checkbox not checked.
So mirror my video has to do with when your video is up, do you want it to be a reverse or a mirrored image of how you show up on screen? And that usually has to do with When you lift up your left hand, does it show that it's your left hand that's lifted or right hand, etc.? It has to do with background to make sure that words aren't backwards and all that. A lot of times for this, it's best to have some vision or have somebody who can see help you with that to make sure that things are looking correct. So it is off by default, and that's where I have mine.
Touch up my appearance checkbox checked.
Touch up my appearance has to do with helping to bring you up in focus. I don't know that it makes you any more handsome or pretty than you might be already, but that's just more of a technical thing to kind of fix up and clear up images of how you use it.
Touch up my appearance.
Raul, this is Chelsea.
Yes.
Can I add to that?
Appearance slider 20.
Touch up my appearance a little bit.
Sure.
So for that, what it actually does is it causes it creates a filter, which kind of like removes blemishes. It smooths out your skin, and it makes the image look a lot just crisper, smoother. So I use that a lot, and I put it on the highest setting because it just makes me look like I look airbrushed. So
Okay.
it doesn't add makeup on you for the ladies or anything like that, but it just makes your skin look really smooth and clear. So if you're kind of self-conscious about any kind of little birthmarks or kind of, you know, uneven skin tone, it's a really wonderful feature to just kind of put it at the highest setting.
Thank you for that, because I think the default is 20%, so it's kind of on the lower, you know, lower aggression, if you will.
Yeah. So the lower you have it, the more detail that they're going to see in your skin. That's just kind of what I've noticed and kind of what I tell people.
What I'm curious about is for the guys who might have 5 o'clock shadow, does that make a difference?
I think I don't know. I've never had a high 5 o'clock shadow, so thank God I don't have a hairy face. But
I
but
need to shave. I can cut it down. We can play with it right now if y'all want.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that, Chelsea.
But I think what it will do is it'll kind of smooth out your 5 o'clock shadow. It won't remove it. It'll just, you won't see, it's not going to be as pixelated, if that makes sense. Right.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Touch up.
Okay.
Adjust for low light checkbox not checked.
And then there's adjust for low light. And, you know, so if you're going to be in a low light environment, you know, you might want to make this setting adjustment. And again, this may be one of those areas where you want to have a sighted person verify, because not everybody's going to need the low light adjustment.
Meetings, grouping.
Okay.
Always display participant names on their.
The meeting section, the only thing we want to change here possibly is whether your video is always on or off.
Turn off my video when joining meeting checkbox checked.
Okay, so for me, turning the video off when joining a meeting is always checked. And the reason I personally check this is because I don't always need to have my video on when I join a Zoom meeting. And not only that, but if I join a Zoom meeting and let's say that I'm not quite ready to sit in front of the camera and be presentable, then I want to be able to have that control. And so I have this box checked to turn off the meeting or the video when I join a meeting. So it's almost like a double negative. If you don't want your video to be on when you join a meeting, then you do want to check this box.
Okay, Raul, I'm going to have to jump in here. I totally agree with you, and I'm going to advise this to most of you as well, because you never know if, you know, I mean, to me, it's like whether I can see myself or not, I kind of have like a profile photo that's actually showing on the screen right now, which is a nice professional photo I know is always going to look picture perfect. So if you don't feel up to being camera ready that day, have that feature switched on the way that Raul said, and you'll never have to worry about it. Now, there's some situations like in classes or certain meetings where people are going to want you to have a live video feed, because they want to make sure that you're not just putting on a screen and you're not actually attending. So then it's always easy to just turn it right off. But I really like that as a default feature, and I think that's just really smart to do that all the time. So
right. Thank you. Yep. And that kind of goes into something that you'll talk about later where, you know, someone should always have some kind of a profile picture so that if the video is off, then people will be able to see that.
And I'll go into, and if I forget, please remind me, what are appropriate and inappropriate profile photos? Okay.
Always show video preview dialog when joining a video meeting.
All right, so I'm going to skip this one.
Hide non-video.
I think
See myself.
this
Maximum
really the only one we need to look at in terms of the technical side, not the practical side.
Did not see any advanced list.
Okay.
Video
So
select.
that's it for video. Now I'm gonna I keep hitting tab until I got back to my list, and I'm at video list. I'm gonna move down to audio.
Audio selected.
And I'm gonna press enter to activate it. And now here are a couple of setting changes that I personally make for audio. So I'm going to hit tab.
Click test speaker to make
We're
sure
going to
you
skip all the test speaker and audio device selections. We're not going to go into that.
If you cannot hear speaker out.
So I'm hitting tab.
Speaker volume. Use separate audio. Click test mic to current microphones. If you cannot microphone volume. Automatically adjust microphone volume checkbox checked.
Okay, this first one, automatically adjust microphone volume. That is on by default, and I recommend leaving it on by default. Some people have a very soft-spoken voice, and some people have a nice, loud, boisterous voice. Okay, so if I talk kind of quiet and kind of mumble, you guys should still be able to hear me just the same as if I talk louder. Okay. So that means that no matter whether you're a soft-spoken person or not, you should be able to be heard if you have this feature enabled. So that's what it is by default. The flip side of that is that if you're sitting next to someone and you whisper something like, hey, can you get me a beer? People are going to hear that very clearly, so you want to be careful with that. And that kind of goes into the whole etiquette on the practical side of things of, mute when you're not talking so that other stuff isn't heard. But so this is more of the audio side of things so people can hear you clearly.
Suppress background noise grouping. Suppress background noise. Learn more link.
So the suppress background noise.
Auto radio button check.
It's set for automatic. And one thing that I've done through experimenting on the background noise is if I have my dishwasher on or if I have my robotic vacuum on and it's a constant background noise, and it's typically going to work pretty well. And most times people don't hear that, and Zoom does relatively good about that. If it's an occasional sound, like I had some people working on a tree in the background about a month ago, and so the sounds were not constant, but they were continuous sounds, almost like slow clapping. Those were coming through and they were very annoying. And so the background noise, in my experience, has typically been continuous background noise. And so keep that in mind. If you have the TV on and it's playing the news, or you're watching a show while you're supposed to be in church, and that's a hint for later because I have something funny to play for you guys, then this isn't going to really work for that. But if it is something that is a constant noise like the vacuum or dishwasher, then it typically will do a fairly good job. Of a person's fan, maybe the air conditioner or the heater, etc. So those kinds of things.
Music and professional audio grouping.
Okay, so we're going to skip some of these.
Show
here.
in meeting option to turn on original sound. Enable these options when original sound. Enable these options when original sound is on. High fidelity. Enable these options.
The next one.
Enable these options when original sound is.
I'm skipping this original sound stuff. We're not going to go over that.
Enable these options. Enable these options when original sound is on.
And it's very
stereo audio.
Verbose here.
Ringtones default. Ringtones learn more but automatically join audio by computer when joining a meeting checkbox checked.
This one, automatically join audio when joining by computer, is normally turned off. It's turned off on iPhone, on mobile devices, on computers. It is just not on by default at all. And so if you keep it that way, typically what will happen is when you join a meeting, you still have to choose the join by audio or connect to audio or connect to internet. You'll see that on your mobile device. And so what you want to do is enable this feature, and every Zoom meeting that you connect will automatically connect you into the audio of that meeting. And I find this one to be an extremely useful feature to enable. All right, next.
Mute my microphone when joining a meeting, checkbox checked.
Mute
I would
my
also throw
microphone.
in, Raul, for the one you just went over for our YouTube people, when they watch it, definitely click that. I see that all the time when people join a meeting and they wonder why they can't talk or nobody can hear them and they're calling and texting people.
Yep.
If you're watching this on YouTube and you're doing Zoom later, definitely enable
Yes.
that.
Thank you. It's probably one of the most important things, I think, for a good Zoom experience. I checked with Zoom to find out why it's off by default, and the reason they gave me is because they say that up until COVID, I think it's changed since, but up until COVID, most of the Zoom usage were people that would call in from when they connect from the computer, it was primarily to watch the video or watch the PowerPoint slides that were getting shared. And then they would dial in from the phone as a conference call, you know, like a round table of execs in a corporate office with a conference call. So it was just one conference call connection with 10 or 11 people, but each person had their own computer. And so audio was not connected on those computers because everybody was on the phone. So that's kind of how it's been traditionally with corporate style conference calls. But for individuals, it's extremely important to have that computer and audio connection. So it's not on, like I said, it's not on at all, whether it's iPhone, Android, tablet, Windows, or Mac. So it's a good idea to enable that. All right, so this next one has to do with muting. So this is one of those practical, not really so much technical. However, I choose to always be muted because when I join a Zoom meeting, sometimes I'm traveling on the go with my driver. It's loud in the background, or I've got the news on, or I got something on in the background, and maybe I'm joining to just listen in. I'm not really going to participate. And so I don't want to join and then mute and cause that brief disruption. I just want to be able to join, and I will be respectful. And that's like walking into a conference, like if it was a real conference in terms of in person, and you're quiet, you just go sit down, take your place, and you participate or you listen in or whatever, rather than coming in, hey, everybody, how's it going? You know, that's just rude. So I personally choose to be muted when I come in. There's no right or wrong on this one, but it's up to you depending on your style. If you typically come into Zoom meetings and it's quiet enough that it doesn't matter, that you're going to be fine, then by all means just leave it unchecked. So it's not enabled by default. Along those lines, if you are connecting from a Mac or Windows computer and some Android tablets, you will want to consider wearing an earbud or a headphone, because otherwise, if you're not muted and you're using your screen reader, it can be heard. This is especially true for people connecting from a Mac computer. It is heard very clearly. Ironically, I say that with Mac because the irony of that is for people who connect from an iPhone or iPad, by default, the background of the voiceover speech is basically muted almost to the point where if people do hear it, it is very quiet or kind of muffled, so it's not disruptive. And so for those of you who are dialing in from an iPhone or connecting from an iPhone or iPad, you typically don't have to worry about that quite as much. All right, so that's the mute feature.
Press and hold space key to temporarily unmute yourself. Checkbox not checked.
So this feature is normally on by default, and that is that if you're muted, you can press and hold the space bar, sort of like a walkie-talkie button, and it will unmute you while you're holding the space bar down. And then when you release the space bar, then it mutes you again. I've had mixed reports and mixed results that for some people this works well, and for other people it doesn't always work well. I'm in that camp where for me it has not always worked the best, and so I turn that feature off. But I have a feeling that it has to do with hardware combinations and what devices you might be using, etc. And so your mileage may vary with this. And what I will typically do if I'm using Zoom a lot is I might wear a pair of headphones that has a built-in mute button on the microphone or on the headphone itself and use that button, and that's also an option. So there's different ways to mute or unmute yourself without having to do the hotkey which on Windows is Alt-A, and on Mac is Command-Shift-A, and on iPhone is the double tapping of the mute button at the bottom of your iPhone or Android screen. And so if you if you use those, that's fine, but usually a mute button on a headphone will be good. All right, so
also, Raul, to throw in also on the in line with like using the mute button on the headphone, if you go back to your actual phone screen, you can actually mute with the main button as well.
Yes.
Like how you do on a regular phone.
Yep, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, thank you. One other thing about muting is if you are dialed in as a traditional landline or manual phone call, like a phone call, whether it's a mobile call through your phone or a landline through a cordless or corded phone, *6 is the telephone code to mute and unmute, and *9 is to raise your hand. And on the computer, I mentioned the mute buttons, but the raise your hand is going to be Alt-Y on Windows and Option-Y on Mac. And then on your iDevice or tablet or app, if you will, it's going to be under the More section or in the participants where you can raise your hand. Okay.
Sync buttons on.
So there's not, that's it for the audio.
Advanced button list.
And I'm going to talk about one last thing, and then I'm going to switch over to the iDevice and show you where these settings are on the iDevice.
Share screen.
All right, so I'm going to move down.
Chat select, background and recording selected, profile select, statistic, keyboard shortcut.
Keyboard shortcuts. I'm not going to touch on this a lot, but just know that if some of these keyboard shortcuts do not make sense to you, or you don't like them, or you want to switch to something else, like maybe Alt-A doesn't make sense to mute and unmute your microphone because it stands for audio, right? You might want to switch it to something else, or you might want to make it feel more like a Mac, so you might do Alt-Shift-A or something. So you can change your keyboard shortcut. So the keyboard shortcuts that I mentioned in today's session are the defaults, assuming that they have not been changed, but you do have that option.
Accessibility selected.
Accessibility is a section here that you typically don't have to do a lot of changing in, except that Zoom has now added a screen reader section. There are multiple ways of when people are using the Zoom session from Windows or Mac that you can suppress certain things coming through. But you can also turn off these features from the screen reader section. It has a list of check boxes that you enable. If they're on, then you'll hear the announcement. If they're off, you won't hear the announcement. So that's one way that you can do it through the Zoom app. With JAWS, there is a hotkey, which I believe is Alt Windows S, and JAWS users might correct me on that. That is to suppress the extra chatter and extra sounds. With JAWS, you can also go into on-demand speech, which is insert space followed by S as in Sam. And that's a toggle for full speech or on-demand speech, and that lessens things. You can always, of course, unload your screen reader and then load it when you're ready to come back. But, you know, so there's different choices and different methods of doing that. There are people on iPhone or Android who turn off the screen reader. I don't particularly do that. So a lot of times what I do is, if I don't want to bother with turning off the announcements of reading or chattering or anything like that, is sometimes on VoiceOver, I'll do a 3-finger double tap, and that turns the speech off. So VoiceOver is still running, but it's in silent mode, if you will. And on Android, I just lower the speech of the volume as it's talking, because you can control the volumes very separately and very easily on Android to be able to control that and make it louder or softer as you need. So there's different ways of doing that. So I'm going to hit escape and close my settings.
Meeting controls window.
And before I switch, I just stopped sharing my screen. Before I switch to demonstrating some of these features on iOS, are there any questions about the PC or Mac side of settings?
You still have Edwin and Glenda from earlier. I don't know if they were taken care of or not, but I'll go ahead and unmute Edwin.
2:45 p.m. One notification.
All right,
Rahul, I have a question. You hear me?
yes.
Okay. Because of a lot of Zoom link I got on this day, but I can do that. I using iPhone 12 Pro Max. I want to put on the all those appointment like just like a time on the calendar, and calendar should be notify me like a 30 minutes before, because I can't remember every day. I download Google Calendar. I have a iOS calendar built in, but I don't know how to do that.
Okay. So
like right now you send me a link, okay, but I forget it's 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock, but right now I see it's 2 o'clock Central Time, but I need to set up as a reminder or calendar anywhere.
Yep. So great question. So there's a couple ways to answer that and to handle this, whether you use a Google Calendar or the built-in iOS or Outlook, you know. So the short answer is that if you add a Zoom meeting into your calendar, no matter which one it is, usually what I will do, like for today's session, I created a title, a meeting that says, you know, HAVIN Zoom workshop. And that's the title.
Yeah, it's neat. I need to create myself, but my question I'm not using myself. My question was automatically it goes to my calendar.
Yep. So
from Gmail to calendar automatically.
Yep. So, and I'm getting there. Yep. I'm getting there. Yep.
Okay.
So if you create one manually, then it would be the title of the meeting, and then of course the correct date and time that defaults to your own time zone. So if you're in Central Time and it starts at 2, then you know that's what you put in. And of course, if you're in Eastern Time and the meeting starts at 2 Central, then of course that will be 3 p.m. Central or Eastern. And so the location is going to be where you'll manually paste in that link so that when it comes up on your calendar, you can choose that as your location, and it will automatically bring up the Zoom ID and if there's a password, etc. So now how do we automate that process? So there is a way to automate it. And usually what that involves is that either someone has added you to a calendar invite where if I were to create a calendar invite on my end, or let's say HAVIN did this and sent out calendar invites to everybody, then people who use calendars would be able to accept them and it would have all of the Zoom information in there. And so if you use a calendar on your phone, then it will automatically come up and say that you have a meeting that's
this is I see sometimes some people do that, and it's good. Even I request you, I mean, for the HAVIN every program, if anybody here in the from HAVIN, please, when you send any link, any invitation, send also calendar link. It's easy for us to memorize.
Yep. You know what, I'm in full agreement
every day
with you.
I get 5 email for the Zoom link and I forget every day.
Yep. So that is a good suggestion. That's more of one of the practical side of the suggestions. I've written it down here to remind myself, and that is something that I will let our HAVIN president know so that they can decide how best to proceed with that, to do calendar invites. I'm fully on board with you on that. If it's not on the calendar, I tend to forget.
And one thing also I see on the Zoom, on the HAVIN also, when they invited us, they say, okay, you go to the register. So we don't need register. Everybody know we are already one time we register on the HAVIN. So if I need to join, then it's easy. Like, I'm busy today. Okay, you send me a register link. I need to go over there. It's take at least 2 or 3 minutes. I thought, okay, I'll do it later. And after that, what happened? I forget.
Okay. So
don't need to register, might be, because when we registered in HAVIN, we know what kind of program.
Mohammed.
Yeah.
You're kind of taking over the time. We need to get to the next people as well.
Your questions and concerns, I think, they're not really technical. They're not part of the training. They're more of suggestions on how we can better our meetings going forward. And I think they're great suggestions. What I would recommend you do is send an email to havin.tx@gmail.com. Send us an email there with these suggestions on how we can improve and what your suggestions are, and then we will take those into consideration. But I don't want to take up more time with taking suggestions on that because we really have a lot to cover.
And Edwin, go ahead.
Hi, Raul.
Hey, Edwin.
If I have my name on Zoom on my iPhone, can I still have my name on Zoom on my laptop?
Yep. So one of the things, what you remember when I mentioned that I think it's a good idea to have to register a Zoom account, is that when you register a Zoom account, even if it's a free account, like I said, you don't have to pay them any money. You can put your name on what you want to be displayed as when you join a Zoom meeting. And so if you are signed into your Zoom account on your iPhone or your iPad or your Windows or your Mac, any device, you will always come up as whatever display name you chose in your profile, so you don't have to worry about naming yourself. Very often we will see people come in as iPhone or Galaxy or owner, or if you added your name on Monday and then you join in on Tuesday and Wednesday, you type it in again, it adds to it. And so then we see Edwin, 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 Edwin coming in instead of just Edwin. And so it's unfortunate that what happens is sometimes Zoom does not make it clear that if you're changing your name or changing the display name, they don't make it clear that it's already there and you need to change it or add to it. And so sometimes if I'm not sure if I'm changing my name manually, I'll clear whatever may or may not be there, select all and delete, or, whatever, however you do that, and then just type it in fresh so that it will come up correctly. But if you do the profile, you won't have to name yourself as much.
Thank you.
Okay.
And by the way, Raul?
Yes.
I'm still waiting your call.
Okay. All right. So.
Okay. Did you want to take any more or you want to move on?
I think we're ready to move on. Yep.
Okay.
Yes. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk more about the iOS side of things. I've talked a lot about Windows and PC and Mac. And so what I'm going to do is now talk a little bit about the app on iOS. So I don't have a screen to share on my iPad, but I do have the audio to share. So hopefully you guys can hear this okay. Let me go over to my iPad here.
Retry. Selected. Retry. Cannot connect to App Store.
Okay. So on the App Store, I have downloaded the Zoom app. And if you go to the App Store or Google Play Store, the same will apply. You can type Zoom into the search, just like you do with any app, and download it. And the main thing you want to get from this is going to be the Zoom meetings from zoom.us, because when you type in the name of an app, another thing may come up.
My account cannot connect to retry.
So I'm going to reconnect to the App Store
now
because
trending. Stream March
disconnected.
Madness. Search tab.
I'm going to search
games, apps, search field,
and I'm going to type Zoom.
Is editing, games, apps, filter, Zoom for Intune, Meet Happy, 4.5 stars.
So you notice that the first Zoom that came up is Zoom for Intune, Meet Happy, and that's not the right one. So I'm going to keep swiping.
Zoom, search field, cancel, Zoom, open, Zoom Cloud Meetings, Meet Happy, 0 stars.
Oh, so that is it. Zoom Cloud Meetings.
Button.
Meet Happy must be their new tag. I've downloaded Zoom like I said 3 or 4 years ago. So I don't remember what they call it now. So apparently now Zoom Meeting says Meet Happy, and
open.
Of course, on mine it says open because I already have it installed. And so if you never had it installed, it would have a get button. If you've gotten it before and deleted it, it would have a re-download button. And if you have it and you need to update it, then you will have to do the update button. And I always recommend having the latest version because Zoom is constantly fixing things, and they do fix things more than they break things for the most part. And so it's recommended to have that current version. So I'm gonna double tap.
Zoom, new meeting, button.
Okay, so now my Zoom account on this device is already signed in, but I'm going to go into the settings to show you some of these settings that I talked about on the PC side so we can see what they look like and hear what VoiceOver says. So I'm gonna tap toward the bottom of my screen. settings is.
Settings button.
There it is. And I'm going to double tap.
Close button.
Okay, now I'm going to start swiping right.
Settings heading Raul Galegas meetings button.
The first thing I want to go into, so the settings categories in the Zoom for iOS app and the Android app are pretty much the same, but they're a little differently laid out than the ones on the PC and Mac. So I went over into the meetings button, so I'm going to double tap meetings button.
Auto connect to audio settings back button.
All right, so I'm going to start swiping and we're going to see which ones we need to get to. Just like with Windows, I'm not going to cover every single setting, but I am going to cover the more important ones that I recommend looking into.
Meeting settings heading.
So I'm swiping right.
Auto connect to audio. Use internet button.
There's that first button, auto connect to audio. This by default, just like on Mac and PC, is not enabled by default. And so again, you run into that issue of joining a meeting and you have to go and still connect to the audio and so on and so forth. So I'm going to double tap that so you can see the options.
Cancel button. Auto
So
connect to
swiping
audio.
right.
Heading done button. Off.
So off is the default setting.
Selected. Use internet.
Use internet is the one that I have selected.
Call my phone number.
And call your phone number, and that's where it sort of does like a reverse callback to allow you to dial in so that you don't have to do the phone number. So using the internet is good, and that's the one that I would recommend, whether it's an iPad, iPhone, Android phone, or Android tablet.
Auto select based on network.
Okay, and that's one that says automatically select based on the network. I've never had to choose any of those options, and so you know, just give them a try if you're curious, but in my experience, the one that's the internet is really the best one.
Auto select based on network. Auto select
so
based
I'm
on
gonna
network.
go back because I've already got that
Auto-connect to
selected.
audio. Use internet button.
Next meeting setting.
Always mute my microphone. Switch button on.
All right, so there's the setting about always muting your microphone. On this account, I also have it set to on for the same reasons that I have it on my PC. So I'm not going to rehash why, other than the fact that that's where it's located.
Alpha. Always mute my microphone when joining a meeting.
And it's giving a brief description of what that means.
Always turn off my video. Switch button on.
And there's the always turn off the video. So the button is on, meaning it will automatically turn off your video when you connect. So if you do not want to have video automatically, then you do want to have this feature enabled. So I hope that's clear. And it goes back to the same reasons that Chelsea and I talked about.
Always turn off my video when joining a meeting.
Okay, so I'm swiping.
Always show video preview. Switch button on.
And we're not going to really talk about some of these other settings. You'll just experiment with them or research on what they mean. They're not really as important for the technical and the getting started.
Always show video. Mirror my video. Switch button.
There's the mirror
off.
option.
Auto copy invite link. Switch button on.
Okay. Now this is one, I didn't cover this on the Windows side because it's in the general. I didn't go into general settings, but on the Windows and Mac side, you'll find the automatically copy the invite link to your clipboard. It's off by default, and it's found in meetings here on iOS and Android. I like to turn that on, and the reason is, for me as a technology instructor and tech trainer, this has happened to me a lot, where I will start a meeting with a client and I get a text or a phone call and they say, can you tell me again what that Zoom link is? Even though that they got it in the meeting reminder and in the calendar and all that, it just happens. Sometimes we lose the email, we lose the text. And so rather than going into the meeting and copying the link and then going and paste it, I know that if I just started this meeting, I can just open an email or open my text message and just hit paste, and it sends them that meeting invitation, or not the invitation, but the link itself, so that they can tap it or enter on it or do whatever, and it will connect them to the meeting that they can join me. So again, that's off by default. I recommend turning that on.
Automatically copy invite link. Set gallery view as default.
Okay, so
Switch
we're not going to go over some
off.
of these other ones.
Show non-video see the avatar. Show name when participants join. Switch button On.
If you want to see the name of people when they join, that you can leave that on.
Show notification of always show meeting controls. Switch button off.
So the meeting controls, that's another thing that you find in the general settings of the Windows and Mac app, and it's right here in the iOS. And that's basically a toggle that has your various different meeting controls that allow you to do more things with the meeting. It hides and shows different toolbars. So if you want a less busy screen, you can leave that off. I normally have it on, so I'm kind of surprised that it's off on this account. So
on.
I just turned it on, so I just double tapped it.
Sync calendars. 3 button.
So on the iOS side, it has a list of calendars that it can synchronize with. And so if you have Zoom meetings on calendars through calendar invites, the Zoom app on your iOS or Android device will be able to show you those meetings in the meetings section, and then you can tap that meeting from there and join it. And that really comes in handy if your workflow is such that you have meetings in your calendars and you don't want to go digging through all the different emails and finding them, etc. And so that's where that comes in handy. And on iOS and Android, it comes in, it's really nice because you can choose how many different calendars you can sync with, and you basically enable them. And if your iOS or Android device sees them, then generally the Zoom app will as well. On Windows side, it's a little tricky, and it's a little tricky on Mac as well, where unless they've changed this, I have typically only been able to synchronize it with my primary calendar that I tell Zoom about. And so that gets a little tricky. You have to start doing some finagling that's outside of the scope of this session. And so I'm not going to go into that, but if you have your calendars enabled and synchronized with your Zoom, one of the cool things that you can do with Siri is you can tell Siri to connect to your next Zoom meeting. And if you tell it to connect your next Zoom meeting, then if it sees in your calendar that you have a Zoom meeting coming up at 2 o'clock for the HAVIN Zoom workshop, then it will connect to that one. So you don't have to worry about what is the Zoom ID, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so again, that requires having this set up in your calendar and this feature to be configured properly.
Meeting reminder. Switch button off.
Okay, so meeting reminder, I have that turned off. It's on by default, and that's basically where it will have a pop-up to tell you about upcoming meetings. I've got other methods of reminder for my meetings, like I have it connected to my Alexa speaker from Amazon that it tells me when I've got a new meeting coming up, and so I don't need it to also pop up on my Zoom, and so that's more of an annoyance to me, so I have that turned off by default. And it's on by default, so I have it turned off as my modified setting.
Zoom will remind you to join closed captioning. Switch button off.
All right, so we start getting into closed captioning. So closed captioning is a feature that can have text that's written so that you can read stuff. And in fact, this Zoom meeting that we are all in has captioning enabled. So it's like instant dictation. Everything that I'm saying and other people are saying is automatically getting captured. And if you are maybe someone who's deafblind and you're reading with a Braille display, you can keep up with what is being said and at what time it was said by reading that caption. There are different captioning services available to choose from. There's some that are third party, some that are paid for, some that are free, and some that require you to have a paid license, and et cetera, et cetera. So there's a little bit of research and a little bit of technical connectivity to do, but once you have it enabled, it works really well, and it allows you to be able to do that so that you can have this session for your text review, whether you need to reread it, sort of like a text version of the recording, or whether you're deafblind and you need to read what's going on so you can keep up with what the people are saying.
Show captions on video when closed captioning is available.
And so this goes into the captions of videos as well. So they try to cover every aspect of where captioning may be used.
Use original sound. Switch button.
So I'm not going to cover some of these other ones.
This will allow show my connected time.
Let's see
Show
what
elapsed.
have.
Touch up my appearance. Off.
Okay,
button.
so there's the touch up my appearance. It's off on this one. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on because it was on my Windows side.
Close.
And now it's going to take me to the how much to do it.
My preview video. Touch up my appearance. Switch button. Off.
Okay, so I'm going to say on.
On. Switch button. On. Touch up. Retouch strength. 25%.
So on here it's set
Adjustable.
up for 25%. This is the one where Chelsea mentioned she has hers cranked up, I think, all the way to the top.
My preview video.
And
Close.
so I'm going to leave
Button.
mine at the default for now
Close. Show
until
captions on video when closed.
I talk to someone to get some feedback on how it looks in terms of differences. What I'm curious about is about a month ago, it was now almost a month ago, I was not paying attention and I ran into a post here in my own kitchen. Somehow the post did not move out of my way, even though it's been there longer than I've lived in this house. And so I had a nice goose egg above my left eye. So, and it wasn't even one of those things that happens because I'm blind. It happened just because I was a careless human, you know, it just happened. And so I'm curious if the touch up my appearance would help to get rid of that goose egg so it appears more normal on my forehead. So I don't want to get another goose egg just to experiment with that. So maybe I should have done.
Use original sound.
All right.
This will touch up my keep virtual background reaction skin tone.
Moving on.
Aspect ratio.
So
original ratio.
on
Cat A. Aspect reaction skin tone.
hang on a second here.
Button.
There we go. When you go through your meeting settings on iOS, I have discovered that sometimes not all the settings show up unless you 3-finger swipe up if you're using VoiceOver. And so if some of these settings don't show up, even though you keep hitting swipe right, try a 3-finger flick up, if you will, to go to the next screen and then see if those settings are there. One of the settings that you'll find on the iPhone or Android phone side of things is car mode. And that's not on the iPad because an iPad doesn't have car mode. And so I would disable the car mode because what that does is it makes it so that some of the controls are not available to you if the phone reports to Zoom that you're in motion, then it might go into car mode and thinks that you're driving. And so to give a more safe environment, if you will, while you're on Zoom, it disables a lot of the controls. And so I would recommend disabling car mode. Okay, so other settings to look at
Touch
on
up my
iOS.
appearance.
Let me
Copyright
go back.
dismiss pop-up. General. Siri shortcuts. Button.
Siri shortcuts is something that you can go into. Like I said, if you have calendar set up or if you want to start an instant meeting, you can configure Siri to do that, where you can say, join my next Zoom meeting or start an instant Zoom meeting, you know, whatever you want to do, you can create those Siri shortcuts. That's something that's available for iOS folks. It's not available for Android to do that. So there's a thumbs up right there to iOS over Android. All right.
About. Button. Copyright.
If I
General.
go
Button.
to
Chat. Button. Contacts. Meetings. General.
General, I'm
Button.
going to go into the
Blur
general
snapshot
settings.
on tap. Set. General. Heading.
And one setting that I'd like to suggest.
Blur snapshot on task switcher. Dimmed. Switch button. On. Enable this option to integrated calling. Switch button. Off. Enable this option to use system audio for Zoom meetings. Other ringtones.
There's
Default.
the ringtones
button.
here. You can change the sounds of how stuff is done.
Select the ringtone from select the
And
ringtone.
that's really the only one to look at, I think, if you want to change those. Those are also available in the audio section of the Zoom settings, but not a lot to really do there. Also in the settings there's the button to sign in or sign up. So you can sign up for the free Zoom account that I mentioned from the app. And you can do it from the website if you want, but you know, you can sign up from the app. And again, that will allow you to change your, put your display name the way you want it to be. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pause here and answer any technical questions on the iOS or Android mobile side of configuring things.
Okay, we'll start with Glenda, and I want to stress for anybody else that has a question to please use the raise your hand feature and don't just unmute. Thank you.
Alt Y, Option Y, and all those things. Okay, go ahead, Glenda.
Am I unmuted?
You are
There you go.
unmuted. We can hear
Okay,
you very
okay.
clear.
What I wanted to say a while ago is what happened with the poll thing, and this may be happen to people again. At the top middle where it says Zoom, right underneath that was a poll in progress, and you had to double tap on that to bring the rest of the poll down, and then you could go through and then next and next. So I figured that out. Just that's FYI.
I appreciate that. And you know, the interesting thing is I have participated in polls from both Android and from iOS, and I've never seen that. It's always just popped up in the middle of the screen. And so I'm wondering if that's something that might be kind of new.
I don't
answer
know.
that for
I've
you,
never
Raul.
seen it either. I'm sorry.
If it pops up and you go back out of it, then it stays sitting there as long as the poll is active, is what it does.
Okay.
Well, that's how I got into it, and I just thought that was interesting because I've never seen that before either. So
okay, thank you for that.
Okay, Elisa.
And sorry, my audio was doing crazy stuff. So did we have another?
Yeah, we have Elisa and Louis.
So this is Elisa.
Hey, Elisa.
Hey.
What's up?
So if you like say some meetings you come in muted, is that the way that the host has it, or it's just the options that the host uses?
If you set your option to always come in muted when you join a meeting, that will be for all meetings that you join.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Now, here's the flip side of it is, let's say that nobody is using that feature. Let's say everybody's going to come in unmuted. When I create a meeting as a host, I have the option to force people to stay muted when they come in. And so even if you have that feature off, the host might override that and you might be muted anyway. But for you specifically though, if you know most of the Zoom meetings that that you participate in, maybe they don't force the muting on you, and so that's where you can choose to automatically be muted when you come in.
So I know you mentioned something about calendar. So say if I got an email from Stacy saying this is the presidential day that we're playing the release, how would you add that to your calendar so you know, or how would you put it as a Zoom calendar invite or reminder? I don't know if I'm making sense.
So that's a good question. So and that's one of the things that I personally wish that more people would use calendars, to be honest. In the case of the example that you mentioned with the Houston chapter, right? So Stacey's going to play the presidential release on a particular day.
Yeah, like
so,
she already sent us out the email. So I'm trying to say, like, how would I put it?
Yep, that's not a problem. So the way you would do it is, let's just say that because you have an iPhone, correct?
Yes, sir.
So if for those of you who have an iPhone or if you have an Android, it doesn't matter. The process will pretty much be the same. As you bring up the calendar app on your device, and you go to choose the new meeting option, and you will title the meeting, like maybe you would call it Houston chapter presidential release, or whatever you want to call it. Give it, you manually put in the correct date and time, which on iOS and on Google Calendar, it's a very straightforward process of the date and the time. It's got the fields in there, you type them in. And then for the location, that's where you'll want to go to that email and copy that link, just the link. You don't have to copy anything else. Just copy that link and paste it into the location, and then save your meeting. And that's all. That's the minimum requirements of what you need, and it will be on your phone.
Okay, because I'm like, how do I do this? Because I get confused. That's why I just
that's the minimum. Now, one thing that you might be able to do, this is kind of a trick, and this works on both Android and iOS. You could talk to your assistant, Google Assistant or Siri, and you could say, create a meeting for, Thursday, blah, 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 at 8 p.m. And then it'll say, what do you want to call this meeting? And you can say, Houston chapter, presidential release, or Houston chapter night, whatever you call it, right? And so it will create the meeting for you with the correct date and time. And then you go in and grab the link from the email, go to the meeting on your calendar that has already been created and choose edit, and then just put the location in the location box, just paste the link in there and then save it. And that
But
way
how
that will
do,
save you from having to do the meeting manually.
so this is Elisa.
All right, one more question from you. from
Well,
this.
I'm actually going to be done, so maybe this
Mhm.
is my last question. So how would you copy it to your calendar?
So copying and pasting, that's
Yeah, I have
kind of
trouble with
outside the
those.
scope of this, you know, so you would
Oh,
have to be able to
sorry.
use your copying and paste features from iOS or copying and paste, you know, methods from Windows or Mac, etc. You know, so that depends. What I can tell you, okay, so the easy way is if you have the email on your phone and you double tap and hold on that link from the email, one of your options should be copy, and then you'll have to use the paste feature. So there's different methods of doing it, but I don't want to take a lot of time going into that. Okay.
No, that's okay.
Yep,
Thank you,
but
Raul.
that's essentially how you do it. You're welcome. All right. Any other questions about settings?
Yeah, you have Lewis, Max, and then Dave. So
All right.
Lewis, go ahead.
Lewis, okay, I have a pro account, and under recordings, some people are seeing a transcription option. That is to say, a transcription is made of their recording, but I haven't seen that in my pro account.
Okay, good question. So what happened is Zoom has recently made available free, I say free to pro accounts, and that's kind of an oxymoron because you're paying for a pro account, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's an added feature to pro accounts where it doesn't cost you extra to allow for transcription. So you'll see it on this meeting, for example. If you look on iOS under the more, you'll see a view transcription and you can see everything that we're saying. On yours, Lewis, you have a pro account. What you need to do is go to zoom.us/sign in and sign into your account on the website. Go to the settings section, and in the meetings section, you need to enable the transcription. It's off by default.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. A couple of settings that are off by default while we're on that topic are going to be breakout rooms, I think polls, separate transcription, live Facebook captioning, those kinds of things. They're normally not turned on by default. And so if you have an account that allows for that, whether it's pro or enterprise or some of the other levels that Zoom sells, then you can go into the website and make a lot more changes than what is available to you in the app itself.
So it's on meetings, on the website under meetings, not in recordings, but under meetings.
In the website, it's going to be settings and then meetings. Yes, because once you go into the settings section, you'll see meetings, recordings, and telephony.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, and then is it Ted? Was Ted next, or who was next?
I believe it was Max and then Dave.
Oh, Max.
Yeah.
Hello there.
Hey, Max.
Hey, I'd like to know, okay, I have an Android phone, and the problems that I've had sometimes with Zoom is when someone's screen sharing, I've discovered when you lower, when you lock the phone, it shuts the screen share off. I don't know if there's anything to do to stop that.
There's not. Don't lock your phone.
Okay, that's good to know. Yeah. And the other thing is, how do I find the mute and unmute button on the Android phone? It's not that as easy as like with JAWS.
Good question. So the way I do it, I have an LG phone, and the same is true for the Samsung phone that Stacy has. So I'm telling you this based on those.
Okay.
What happens is on the bottom left of the Zoom window, there is a toolbar that is hidden by default. And if you listen to it, it might say something like double tap to show or hide toolbar. And you want to make sure that that toolbar is showing, and that's your meeting control. So many times that is hidden by default. And so once it's showing rather, then you will see the mute button on the bottom left. And then going forward, you know, flicking to the right across the bottom there, you'll see like the view transcript, raise hand, and participants buttons.
Oh, thank you.
Yep.
All right.
All right.
And you
Okay,
have
we had
Dave,
one more, I believe.
and you have Dave and Herbie popped up.
Okay. All right, Dave.
Yes, you had mentioned Siri shortcuts. Is it possible using whatever that is to create a shortcut for muting and unmuting or raising hand and lowering hand rather than always going down and trying to find the buttons?
No.
No? Okay.
Nope. However,
Thanks.
there is if you're using an iPad, of course, if you're not, then none of this will make a difference. If you're using an iPad and you have a Bluetooth keyboard, you can use keyboard shortcuts to do these things, and they mirror the Mac shortcuts, like Command Option A for toggle your mute and unmute, and Option Y for hand raising, etc.
Also, isn't there a 2-finger double tap? Isn't that a thing where you can like unmute and unmute?
It is my
unmute yourself?
understanding that a 2-finger double tap on the iPhone when you're in a Zoom call will hang up the Zoom call.
Ah.
Now, if other iOS users know differently on that, please correct me, because most of the Zoom that I do from a mobile device is Android.
Yeah, that's just something I've heard and it has to be with voiceover on.
Yes, it has to be with voiceover on, and I know it used to work that way for sure, but recently I've heard that will hang up your call.
Yeah, Zoom. Sorry. Okay. I apologize. I thought I had a witty answer for you. But Herbie.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone.
Hey,
Great
Herbie.
presentation. Hello. Just a couple of quick comments and then question, which may or may not be the scope of this presentation. 2 comments. First of all, with the 2-finger double tap, yeah, that does seem to hang up the call. I've never noticed it to toggle the mute thing, but it either seems to do nothing or does hang up the call. Second of all, somebody had a question about locking your screen with the screen sharing. If the person is just sharing audio and not sharing the actual screen, then in that situation you can lock the phone. But yeah, unfortunately, if they're sharing the whole screen, then you are stuck. And my question is there a way, on iOS and on Windows for that matter, like in the Zoom history, I have some classes that are still in there from like previous semesters that I don't want, but I don't want to clear out the entire history. So is there a way to remove individual meetings that you have been to that you no longer need access to?
I have not found a way to do that. If you can find that first, please educate me, because that is an annoyance.
I have not found a way, so I was hoping you had. So, all right.
Yeah, I have not. And the interesting thing about that is I'm probably on like at least 15 different Zoom calls per week. And yet some of they're still in the history, some of the, because I thought it would only keep like the last few. And every now and then I'll see a Zoom meeting come up from like months ago that I haven't even been to, and it's still there in the history. So it doesn't seem to be very consistent.
Yep, that's what I've noticed too. All right, thank you.
One other thing about history, and let me know if this is your experience too, Herbie, is if you have a meeting that has a passcode, whether it was embedded in the link or not, I haven't been able to connect to that meeting through the history unless I have the direct link. Is that your experience?
No, what I do is for meetings, like for instance with iBug, what I do is I just create a contact and I put the link in the URL section and click on it that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is definitely the case. The other thing I have noticed too is one thing with bad internet is if you do not have an internet connection, its history will not show up, at least on the iPhone. So
yep, they're bringing it down. They're bringing it down from the web dynamically because the history kind of follows you. So if you have an account on, you're signed in on your PC, you're signed in on your iPhone, your history tries to follow you, and that's why I think I'm seeing those inconsistent results where sometimes meetings from a long time ago show up. It's really weird. They need to fix that, honestly.
They do, yes. All right, thank you.
Anyway,
and I was trying to help Cheryl with the poll and the chat. She was trying to fill out the poll still. It's with space bar to do your answer? I unmuted Cheryl so she can ask directly.
Yes, it's just not working for me. So I thought, well, I'll just forget it and just listen, because I can't be doing this and listen to what y'all are saying too.
Yeah.
It's just, it doesn't work for me. I like right now, I want to answer the question.
And it's not working for you?
No, it reads it. It tells me it has 4 alternative answers. I tab to the list box. Okay, how do I get that to open? It just, do I need to tab again or what do I do? I
So
press,
when you're in that list box, try pressing your enter and then down arrow.
that's what I tried to do and it didn't.
Yep.
No, it goes on to the next question.
Yeah, that is weird, and that's not consistent.
Oh, Herbie might be back with the answer. He raised his
Well,
hand.
it's kind of, yeah, sorry, it's more of an observation, but interestingly enough, I've had experience with polls a few times, and I found, like this one, I was very easily able to do on the Mac. I just interacted with each question, selected what I want, and then VO righted to submit. Windows, I found it to be a little bit more of a weird interface with polls myself, but the Mac seems to be the most accessible, I think, when it comes to the Zoom polls.
I've tried to press
to that.
I've done
I
arrows.
seem to have. Oh, I'm sorry, Cheryl. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, it just won't let me do it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I don't have a suggestion on that. It's supposed to work okay, and I admit I haven't tried it on Windows. I've had the best results with Mac and with iOS and Android devices, but I agree with Herbie that Windows seems to be a little off with the way the polls work.
So, Monica just popped up for one last. Maybe she wants to chime in. Go ahead, Monica.
All right, Monica.
Hey, Raul.
Hi.
I was gonna tell the young lady that if she's using JAWS with Windows, you can find the polls button and tab, and it'll show you the first question, and then tab for the checkboxes. Each checkbox is a different tab, I believe, and then you shift tab back for the question if that helps you.
I can try it, but I don't know.
Okay.
And just so you guys know, I don't know if anybody saw, but Chris put an answer for the history in the chat, so y'all can check that out at your leisure. Raul, if you want to move forward.
Okay. All right. And we're actually almost done with the technical side of things. What I'd like to do is spend a little bit of time here to talk about hosting and co-hosting. So one of the things, and this kind of touches a little bit on the practical side, is if you're going to host or co-host a meeting, try to start on time, try to end on time, right? Because everybody's time is precious. So as an example, Chelsea and I had a conversation about this where she is expecting to start at around 4 o'clock Central Time for her portion of it. So if I'm not done with my section, I'm going to basically find a stopping point so that I do stop right at 4 o'clock to give her that fair chance to do her thing. Now, there is a good chance, and I really think it'll go this way, that I'm going to be done with my portion of it sooner than 4 o'clock. And so likewise, she would be a team player and say, okay, so yeah, even though he's starting before 4, she's going to be ready to go. And so that's just one of those things that you coordinate with your Zoom hosts on how you're going to do things when you host a meeting. Regarding hosting a meeting, is that if you have a free account, like I said, everybody should sign up for a Zoom account because they're free and because you get some of these extra benefits. If you have a free Zoom account, you can have one-on-one meetings without restrictions with anybody. The meeting turns into a 40-minute demo, if you will, if a third person joins. So 3 or more people in the meeting on a free Zoom account that's getting hosted by a free Zoom account, turn that meeting into a 40-minute meeting. And here's the thing about that is, while you might have a clock that shows you your connected time, I haven't been able to get it to warn you that your time's almost up. So all of a sudden the meeting just ends. You could be in the middle of a sentence and boom, that's it, your meeting's gone. So if you are going to have a free Zoom account and you're going to host meetings, then keep in mind one-on-one is forever, and 3 people or more is 40 minutes. So short meetings, you know, if you need to just have a quick get together, quick powwow, whatever, you can do those with free accounts. So what is the difference between a host, a co-host, and a participant? So everything that we've been covering so far has to do with the majority is a participant. So we are all participants. I'm technically the host of this meeting. I have assigned co-hosting privileges to Terrence, and to Chelsea. And a lot of the hosting privileges has to do with security, with safety, and with allowing folks to be able to help you out with the Zoom logistics of running the meeting. And so, for example, although I, as the host, can let people in, kick people out, mute people, unmute people, lower their hand, acknowledge them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, I'm choosing not to do that because that's what Terrence and or Chelsea may be here to help me with. And I'm going to be a good Zoom host and let them do the job that they're so willing to give up their Saturday to do. If I were to go and take over and do that, then they might say, hey, I don't want to help this guy anymore. He's just taking over. So it goes into some of those ethical things and practical things of what you should do. If you have a large meeting, typically what I do is I will tell someone, okay, can one person handle the muting and unmuting, and the other person handle the hand raises, and maybe the other person handle the chats. If it's a large meeting, that's typically what I recommend to do, assign people certain roles so that people aren't stepping on each other. If it's a relatively small meeting or a manageable crowd, and if the host or co-host has hosting experience, then one co-host, aka Terrence today, may be able to handle the muting, the hand raising, and maybe even the chat, right? Would that summarize it correctly, Terrence? You can handle those with today's meeting, right?
Yep, I'm on it.
If it was a meeting of 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, then that could be a little overwhelming for one co-host to handle all that, especially if there's a lot of chatter going on. And so that's where we might want to split up the duties. The other thing about host and co-host, and this is something that I have on my meeting set up, I have a pro account. My meeting is locked down, meaning that only the host or co-host are allowed to share screens. And that's important to have so that you don't let participants share the screen if you think your meeting might get compromised. And some of you may or may not have heard of the term Zoom bombing. And so Zoom bombing is something that came into happening, especially during COVID, where people from the outside or people that just want to cause trouble will come into a Zoom meeting and start playing obnoxious audio or showing inappropriate video or just doing all kinds of stuff. And then it basically makes it so sometimes you have to actually close the meeting and restart it. And in some cases, you've had to get rid of that Zoom ID and create a whole new Zoom ID and then tell only the people that you want to have it what that Zoom ID is. And so because a meeting like the HAVIN workshop is public, a lot of people know about it. And for those of you who have paid attention to these numbers, you'll notice that for the last 3 or 4 workshops, the Zoom ID has been the same. And so rather than having a new Zoom ID every time, I created one specifically for the workshop, and we just use this one. And we'll continue to use it, I think, until it gets compromised or somebody abuses it or whatever. And so there are passcodes that people could have with the Zoom meeting, and so and there are waiting rooms. This one is set up to be easy for the participant. All you have to have is a Zoom ID number, or the link, and when you connect, you'll be in the waiting room, and then somebody like myself or Terrence or whoever is co-hosting will let you in. There are Zoom meetings that you can have a passcode, and when you join, you'll still have to type in the passcode manually, and then you come in automatically without being in the waiting room. And then there's some that you get the link, and the link has the passcode built into it, and so you don't have to do anything, and you just come in. For me personally, that last example where the link is part of the Zoom meeting with the passcode, that's sort of like saying, hey, my door is locked, but the key is underneath the doormat. Just go ahead and help yourself in. So yeah, your door is locked, but you're still letting everybody in easily. However, it does make it convenient. So rather than having a password and just letting everybody come in for this kind of workshop, we simply have it with a waiting room, and that way people join a few minutes ahead of time, and then as people, once we start the meeting, then we let people in. And so those are some of the things that you can configure with Zoom. we don't have time to go over the web settings as a host to be able to really dive deep into the hosting experience of Zoom, but that is something that we might be able to do based on a survey and based on if that's what people want, where we talk about nothing but hosting. Another thing you can do as a host is you could run breakout rooms. You can run, the polls like what we just did. You can do all kinds of stuff. Breakout rooms, if you guys have attended Zoom meetings with breakout rooms, whether I've ran them or from somebody else, that's where you can go into sort of like separate Zoom meetings, like a separate private room where it's a smaller subset of the meeting itself. The last HAVIN one that we had was a game night. And so we had a breakout room for Jackbox games. That's how I got to know Max a little more. So, Max and Ron and a couple of friends of mine, we played some games on Jackbox. And then there was an RS games room, and that's where Stacy was hosting that, helping out. And people got to chat and play on RS games. And then there was a general chit chat and karaoke room. And so all of that was on the same single Zoom ID, but it was separated into the various different breakout sessions. And so that is another thing that hosts are able to do. As a host, the other thing that I could do is I could mute everybody or unmute everybody. So if I wanted to ask everybody to unmute, so we can do one loud cheer, we could do that. And, so you have all types of neat little privileges, okay? So what I'd like to do, I'm coming up to the end of my session in terms of the technical side of things. Before I play a fun video to share with everybody, I would like to take some time, maybe no more than 5 minutes, to answer a few other questions on things that I might not have covered or you need some explanations.
You have Nisha and then Chris. And once again, if you have a question, please use the raise your hand feature. So Nisha, Chris, and then Nicole now. So go ahead, Nisha.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
So earlier you mentioned the Alt Spacebar S feature on JAWS. Is that so you don't hear the chats as the chats are turned off in terms of the audio?
Yep, so, and I believe the hotkey is going to be Alt, Windows, and S, the Windows key. And I could be wrong on that hotkey. I'm not a JAWS user every day, so I might be forgetting it, and I usually turn them off other ways. But it should be Alt, Windows, and S. And what that will do is turn off the constant chat, the constant notifications of certain people coming in, and that's if those are even enabled to begin with.
Okay. And my last question is, sometimes I'm asked to host a meeting and people raise their hands. And as a JAWS user, I don't know whose hand is raised. And is that something I can navigate using JAWS?
Yes, it sure is. I will share with you what I do. So usually if I am hosting a meeting or co-hosting where I'm either helping out with that section and I'm going to be doing that kind of stuff, what I will do is open the participant list, and that's done in Windows with Alt-U. And for those of you who are Mac users with VoiceOver, that will be Command-U. All right, so what I do is I have that participant list open and I keep my focus there in that participant list, especially if my duty as a host or co-host is to kind of handle that aspect of it. Remember, I mentioned you might have a co-host that only handles that and another one to handle the chat, etc., right? And so what happens is the host is listed at the very top of the list. Underneath the host is going to be the list of your various co-hosts and then your participants. So what will happen is when somebody raises their hand, you will get a notification through speech that so-and-so has raised their hand, but you will also see their name move toward the top of the list. And that way you can find them more quickly. This is especially helpful if you have about 20 or 30 or more, hundreds of people on this Zoom meeting. You don't want to be going through that entire list just to find them, right? So people with their hand raised will have that priority. Well, they'll be at the top and you could read it with your up or down arrow and either read them by name. So if I wanted to look at that right now, I would see that Chris's iPhone has his hand up. And so I could then say, okay, Chris has his hand up. You know, Chris, go ahead and say what you're going to say. And then as soon as I acknowledge Chris, then I will hit tab from his name, and there's a button that says lower hand, and I will lower his hand because I have now acknowledged him, and that way his name is no longer at the top of the list. And so all of that is completely accessible with JAWS.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
And just for a little bit of clarification, they pop up right below the host. So if you're a co-host, it'll be you at the top, then the host, and then anybody with raised hands, and then the other co-hosts.
Yep. And thank you for clarifying that. I think I had the order a little wrong. So.
Oh no, you had it right, but it's just you're the host. So I just wanted to clarify if you're a co-host that the host is right below you because you're always at the top.
All right.
Chris.
And then I believe Chris is next, right? And so now Terrence is going to lower Chris's hand.
Well, Chris lowered his own hand.
Okay,
Chris, are you still there?
You could lower your own hand. So go ahead, Chris, if you still have a question.
Sorry, just stop. Let me navigate for a second.
Oh, not a problem.
Kind of funny question for any of you guys who have experience hosting. I hosted a Zoom party at Christmas time that had breakout rooms that were involved. Have any of you guys ever hosted a meeting where you yourself got stuck in a breakout room?
I have heard of that happening to people, but that's never happened to me personally.
It did to me, and I could not figure out how to get around and get out of it.
Normally,
I was sitting in a room by myself, and I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Terrence.
I was gonna say, for me personally, the few times that I've done breakout rooms, I typically get on 2 devices. So like I'll get on my cell phone and my computer, and I'll just name the computer like facilitator and only move people from there and just leave it on mute. And then if I want to go from room to room, I move my phone and talk on that. Is what I do.
That's an idea.
Very similar to what Terrence is saying.
Get stuck.
I've also, in my experience, when you do a lot of involved hosting tasks, I have found it easier to do it from a Mac or Windows computer rather than a phone.
I don't do any hosting from a phone.
But one thing that I do recommend, no matter what kind of hosting task you're doing, especially if it's not involving breakout rooms, if it's involving participants, is just keep that participant window open regardless of what device you're connecting from.
Yeah, the only caveat I would add to that is if you're like I'm doing now, where you're having to watch both, there's no way that I know of anyway, unless somebody can school me, and I'd appreciate it, is there's no way to see the chat from the participant screen. Everything
Correct,
else you can see.
No, there's not.
All right, guys, thanks.
Okay, Nicole? And then there's Sandia, Monica, and Muhammad. So we're gonna try to hurry up.
Raul, can you hear me?
I can. You're coming through loud and clear.
Okay, thank you. With the 3 people with the Zoom, how can you track the time for the 40 minutes? So like you said, it doesn't shut off automatically and you're still talking.
Yep. It shows it on the screen, but I confess that sometimes with speech, it's not very clear as to where that is on the screen, even if you tab to it. Sighted people can see that visually on the countdown, but I have not always been able to get an accurate number of that with the screen reader. And so I will be honest with you, I do it a different way. If I'm on a 40-minute timer, I'll ask my smart speaker or my phone to just set a timer for 35 minutes or something like that. And then that way, when the external timer goes off, then I'll tell my folks, hey, we got 5 minutes left.
Okay, so you set an extra timer.
Yeah, an external timer, like through my phone or like Alexa or Google speaker, or, whatever.
Okay.
I just do it that way.
Okay, thank you.
And I agree with that because even as a low vision person, I can't see that timer, and I'm looking at it.
It's not the most. Yeah. All right.
Sandia.
Oh, hi, Raul.
Hey, Sandia.
Hey, just a real quick question about interaction between co-hosts. Can a co-host mute another co-host? Because I thought previously they couldn't. Am I not on the latest, or has something changed, or has that always been? I thought that, well, so the question is, can a co-host mute a fellow co-host?
Well, I just muted Terrence, so I think I can. Now I'm a host, so I think the real experiment would be if Terrence could mute Chelsea or Chelsea could mute Terrence, because they're both co-hosts. They're supposed to be able to.
I just asked Chelsea to unmute. I don't know
Well,
if you can, if
well,
Chelsea
maybe-
unmutes.
Maybe
we
I
can
wasn't
try it.
being clear. Like when I master mute everybody, you know, you do like a lot, you master so nobody else can talk, but you don't want to master mute. You don't want to include the co-host, but
Right,
it is,
they're not
I guess
included. Yeah.
they are not included?
They are not.
Okay. Okay. Because yeah, they can still unmute themselves, but they will get muted during that muting process though, right? Is
It's
that what
my
you're saying?
understanding that they're not included. So like if I were to mute everybody right now,
Let's
it
try
would
it.
mute
I'll
you,
start
but it
talking
would
and
keep
you go
Terrence
ahead.
and myself unmuted.
Let's see. It's a quick test. If you
And so
want to
you
go
would
ahead and,
remain unmuted.
We can
Okay,
try it. You want me to try
okay,
it?
because
yeah, that's a quick thing.
Okay. Let me try it real quick. So stay unmuted.
thank
Sandhya.
you. Okay, I'm still unmuted.
All right. So I just muted everybody.
Yeah, and I muted when you did it. I had to go back and unmute myself. So
okay.
And just FYI, guys, I just muted Terrence as a co-host, and he's a fellow co-host. So I think I was
wait,
go ahead
did I just get muted?
Yeah, I did mute you. Sorry, but
Good question, Sandhya. Yeah, and here's the thing with Zoom, and this is, it's kind of annoying, is that sometimes they'll change certain privileges of things. Like for example, I know that I have it set on my account so that a co-host can add other co-hosts. But Terrence was telling me earlier that he was not able to re-co-host Chelsea, so I had to go and do that. And
Right, that's a new setting. Yeah,
yeah, that's new because
only
that
the
used
host
to
can do
work.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
Okay, well, thank you so much for doing the test, and it does change. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
Hopefully they let co-hosts run breakout rooms soon. But I digress. Monica.
Yes, yeah. We can go into a Zoom wish list session now, you know, for that. All right, so we have time for, I think, one more question before I play this video and transition over to Chelsea.
And that's Monica. Well, she can unmute herself. I'll just lower
Can you
the
hear me now?
hand.
Yes,
There you
we
go.
can.
Okay.
Loud and clear.
Okay. So yes, my question and a comment. The question is, on one of the settings, it says something like, and you passed through it, which is okay. I just thought I'd ask if I could. The sync, it says something like sync headset. And for some reason on mine, it was checked and I didn't know what that meant.
So if you have a headset that has buttons, like volume buttons or mute buttons specifically, that will allow you to have better compatibility with those headsets. So, a headset that I recommend, and I promise I'm not getting kickbacks, is a Logitech. I think it's like a 370 or 380
yeah, I
headset.
have it. I'm using it.
Okay, so you know how it's got those buttons there? I believe that if that checkbox is enabled, that's what allows those buttons to help you with the muting and unmuting.
Okay, sweet. And the comment was, you are correct. The keystroke in JAWS is Alt Windows S.
Oh,
and
thank
you get
you.
3 different kinds of alerts. You get alerts enabled where you hear everything, alerts disabled, including all notifications, but that one never works for me, and alerts disabled. So I always, if I press it, but somehow I end up getting notifications, so I don't know. But that is the correct keystroke.
Thank you for that. And what I would recommend, I don't know if you caught this earlier, is my personal preference when I am using JAWS is I will put JAWS in the speech on demand mode, and that's done with JAWS key with space or insert space, and then the letter S, like Sam. And it's an on-off switch, so it's on demand or full speech mode. And when it's on demand mode, that means that JAWS is still talking, but the only time it will talk is if you ask JAWS to do something like read the title or read the line or whatever, but by default, it won't say anything on its own.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So before
I was gonna say you are running well on time. Did you want to go ahead and take Mohammed's question?
All right, so we can do, because the video that I want to play is about 4 minutes long. So, I want to be sure we have that so we can start right at 4 o'clock, if not sooner. So
he can keep it. If you can keep it to 2 minutes, you go ahead. You're good, Mohammed.
All right.
Just I have a question. If you
All
send
right.
me any file, if you say, okay, we have a file for this presentation, so how I save it and how you send me the file and how I save it. Is possible you send me on any file through Zoom?
Yes, file sending is possible if it's enabled at the Zoom level. I have it disabled on mine for security purposes, but that is possible that it can be done, and I can send you a file through either Dropbox or just like browse a local file and then upload it through the file sending, and then when you get it, you will see the file there, and then you can choose to open it or save it locally on your machine.
Okay. So I get alert where I get the file. I mean, which way, which option I got the file?
It will show a pop-up on your screen that you're getting a file, and then you can save it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what I'm going to do now is play this video. It is tongue-in-cheek humor, for lack of a better term. It's Saturday Night Live. So for those of you who are familiar with Saturday Night Live, you kind of already know what it is. And it's funny, but it is based on truth. And a lot of this stuff does happen on Zoom. And I think this is a great transition to what Chelsea is going to talk about.
It's a good one.
Oh, that's one of my favorites. And the thing is this happens. This really does happen. I mean, this is humor, like I said, but this has happened to everybody at least once, where you think you're muted and you're not, or you're not muted and you are. I think that if I were to make a t-shirt of the top 10 things said the most during COVID, aside from wash my hands, are, can anybody hear me? So take it away, Chelsea.
Oh my gosh, that was hilarious, Raul. I had to keep myself from laughing too hard, but I loved it. Thank you. All right, everybody. So glad. Well, I know I can't hear you guys when y'all do this, but if y'all can, for those of you who have I guess you can clap your hands and show some emotions and stuff like that. That'll be great. For those of you who are on the phone, you can't do that, but yeah, I want to give a great hand of applause to Raul. Woo-hoo! Good job, Raul. And
amen.
Yay! Great job, guys. Honored to be teaming up with you today. And without further ado, like Raul was saying, I'll be sharing all the non-technical stuff. It's more about Zoom etiquette, a lot of questions that a lot of you might have about how does my camera look, yada, yada, yada. What should my lighting be like? What are some of the tools and equipment that I can buy and order through Amazon? That would be great for that. And we'll get into that, and I'll try to wrap it up as best as I can by 5 o'clock Central. And so to begin, what I want to first do is kind of make this beginning part interactive. I love making things interactive. So for those of you who want, since I'm sighted and I'd love to add some kind of visual assistance here, if those of you who are kind of curious about, does my camera look good? Is it position centered and all that kind of stuff? Does my lighting look good? This is all voluntary, so you don't have to do it. But those of you who do need some feedback and would like some, we're going to do a quick speed round of, like helping you set up your cameras and stuff. So having that said, go ahead and undo your video, open up your video settings so that I could see you if you'd like some feedback. And I'm going to try to do this really quickly. Let's see. So let's see, Mohammed. I think you're holding it on your iPhone, so your camera's kind of moving, but right now you've got a position so that I see you centered, which is almost centered. So if you can move it over a little bit to your right, then I'll see you better. Lighting is very good for Mohammed. Cheryl, I see more. Yep, good. You're centered. However, I'm seeing a little bit more of your forehead. So if you can position your camera down a little bit more towards the floor a little bit, and the lighting on your left side is kind of making it a little bit dark. So I would suggest that you do like a camera, not a camera, I'm sorry, like some kind of lighting in the front of you so that your face will light up. So there are others. Lara, Sawell, you are perfect, my lady. Love it. Centered in every way. And I can see the upper half of your body. So your camera is checked. Nicole Finley, I mostly only see your forehead, and you are in the bottom right of the screen. So if you could position your camera down a little bit more, perfect. Stop, stop, stop. Go up a little bit more. Actually, you're pretty good. And move over to the away to the right. There you go. And then that way you'll be in center. So for now on, sit there and keep your camera like that. You're gonna be perfect for future Zoom meetings. Ned, you look great. I love the lighting. I'm not sure who this is. It says iPhone, and it's I believe you're a gentleman with the. I don't see your name on the screen, but
George.
George, you're perfect. You look great. All right, let me scroll through. I don't see anybody else with their cameras on, but that's okay. Like I said, this is all voluntary. Herbie, awesome. I see you, my friend, and you look great. Terrence, looking cool as usual. And Herbie, if you want to, you can also move closer to the screen. I see more of your ceiling, but I do see your half body and your full head, which is great because that gives me a visual on your body language. Oop, and you've got your iBug t-shirt on. Awesome. Okay. All right. So that's everybody who wanted to volunteer. Now, for those of you who have pictures on the screen for profile photos, some of you have profile photos that are, just your head, which is good. But if you want, and then some of you have some profile photos that are like, family pictures, which is nice too. But if you're wanting something that is professional, I would highly suggest something like where it's a half body shot, your head, your shoulders, half body, and you're smiling, not a clown freaky smile, but something nice and, something just like a nice polite smile, right? And looking friendly, because you want to look approachable and friendly. So
real quick, Chelsea, can you describe mine to see if mine fits what you were suggesting when mine, because I think I have one on this account.
yes, you have a wonderful, very friendly smile. You're making eye contact directly with the screen. I see your basically the top of your shoulders and your neck, but the background, Raul, is of a doorway, and the door is closed, which is still okay. But if you're wanting something more professional, I would say go with a totally a very like a background that's just a white wall, a dark wall, or something that's very neutral that has like no patterns in the background, basically.
Gotcha.
Kind of like when people do a LinkedIn profile, they don't have all that visual clutter behind them. It's just their face, right? And their smile, because you want to eliminate as much visual clutter as possible for those who are sighted and stuff. And it just looks clean, polished, and professional. For Michael McCullough, he's like smiling, happy, got sunglasses on. It's great and friendly. It's a very nice picture. And he's in some kind of background. It's some place. There's plants and things in the background, and it looks fun, but it's a fun photo. It's just not a professional photo. So think about what kind of image you're trying to portray and what kind of image you're trying to portray to the group that you're in. So if you're in like a business situation, I would say have something a little bit more professional. But if you're out with friends and doing a friendly call, this is a very friendly, open haven kind of thing. So it's okay to not have something super professional, if that makes sense. But if you're doing something like a job interview, have a professional image set up for you. You could either, contact somebody like me who can help you set that up, or people like Ira you know, who can kind of give you some advice, or just, you know, get something professionally done, whether you go to, you know, Walmart, see, you know, or somewhere to create a professional picture and then upload it to your devices so that you can also upload it as your profile image. And I'm sure Raul can get into some of those details in the future. All right, so that was my speed round of, you know, kind of like that, you know, reaching out to you and giving you instant feedback on some professional, you know, imagery for you. But right now, what I would like to do is go ahead and also share my screen. So I believe I have that capability now. Is that right, Raul?
That is correct. You should be a co-host, so you have those privileges.
Okay, so a very important thing when we do our share screen is always share sound and optimize video clip image. And I am going to go straight into it now and share with you my screen. And I'll describe it as well, so don't worry about that. I'll try to be as descriptive as possible with for those of you who have low vision or no vision with the screen. Okay, so the first screen here is basically, oops, I jumped ahead of myself. The first screen here is, it says HAVIN Workshop, and it's all about Zoom etiquette. And in the background, there's a young lady. You don't see her face, but just the back of her head. She's got her headphones on, and she's actually looking towards at a computer. And she's just on the computer, and that's basically it. So this is what it is. This is how to Zoom from your room and prepare for online success and meetings, okay? Whether you're hosting the meeting, joining in on a meeting, or both, okay? And oftentimes, you know, I find myself on both ends of that, and I'm on Zoom, like Raul, very much even before Zoom was ever international and has grown to the scale it was. And I found it as one of the best platforms out there because it is fully accessible. So I love it, and I love all the wonderful changes that they've made. Okay, so we just did this speed setup check together. For those of you who turned on your cameras, I want to make sure that, you know, I was checking for camera positioning. So here's a little tidbit of information. A lot of times when I'm doing Zoom classes nowadays with my clients online, those of you who know me or may not know me, I provide like online grooming, hygiene classes on how to do your makeup or how to shave and how to prepare yourself visually for job interviews, being professional, whatever that may be. And even if that's for a personal, for your personal, you know, growth and personal appearance, right? And so when COVID happened, we could no longer, due to social distancing, we couldn't be in person, and I couldn't provide these services in person. So I went fully online, and now I'm teaching classes online virtually all over the world, literally. And as well, you know, to students in special ed with disabilities here in the United States, as well as internationally. So it's created so much of a bigger reach, and we're using Zoom more than ever. So being on camera is more important than ever, and knowing how to be on it properly. Now, a lot of the questions that I get when I'm working with my blind or visually impaired clients is, you know, can you see me okay? And one of the biggest problems that we have is just setting up the camera. Okay, this is where I talked about before with Raul, where you have to do your homework. You have to get with a family member, a friend, or a person like me, or Ira, or whatever, you know, Be My Eyes or whatever, and go online and make sure that a sighted person is on the other end checking you on your camera and positioning it just properly. So once you get it positioned, I would say like a good distance is I want everybody to stick out their hand straight in front of you, okay? Towards straight in front of you and at arm's length. Now, whether you have a webcam or whether you have a built-in camera into your device, you want to make sure that you're almost at least arm length away from the camera, okay? Because when you're closer than that, people are looking at your forehead, they're looking at half of your head, they're looking at just your mouth. It can be very distracting. And you also want to wherever you're sitting, okay, you want to have a chair with a back. And here's why I say this. You may not be aware of it, whether you're sighted or not, of your body positioning. And when you have a really confident, straight, shoulders back, sitting up straight, confident body language, it also portrays confidence. When you sit for hours on end with a chair with no back, you unintentionally or unknowingly tend to slump and have very poor positioning. Okay, and that shows as very low confidence. Okay. Another thing is, like I said, positioning it and putting your arm's length away so that you're not you don't see this giant gargantuan head just staring right at the screen. And that can be very unnerving and almost distracting if you're in a group meeting. You can use boxes. I know all of us have plenty of empty boxes, books, and household items to use to prop up your camera if you have a camera that is external and movable. And also use tape if needed to, in order to tape to also kind of like tape the camera in place. Now, can everybody hear me okay? Raul, can you hear me all right?
You're coming in through very clear, so
okay.
you're good.
Okay, great. All right. So another thing is let me see. I need to move this. I can only see part of my screen for some reason. Hold on. Okay. All right. Another thing is to be sure that your face is centered and your body is centered. Okay. So your face should really, and the way that I would like you to do this, whether you can see yourself or not, is put both of your hands, okay, on both sides of your computer screen, and on the left of your computer screen and on the right of your computer screen. Okay. And when you do that, now make sure that now move it such a way so that it's in front and in the middle of your body, so that it's in front of your chest. Does that make sense? So now you have control of where that camera is in front of you. And the best thing to do is to show at least the upper half of your body, your shoulders, your face, and the top of your head. Okay. Cheryl, your screen is still a little bit facing towards the ceiling, so go ahead and pull it down a little bit if you can. And Max Crawford, I see the side profile of you. That is okay, but it's better if I see your front profile. When people see your front profile, they can see your eye contact that you're making with them. Whether or not you can see them, that doesn't matter. They need to see you, especially if you're dealing with a mixed meeting group where you have some who are sighted and some who aren't. It's just a very good way to practice having that front visual. It's just like if you were meeting somebody in person, would you meet them and shake their hand sideways? No, you wouldn't, right? You would want to be facing them head on and, turning your head and body towards the sound of their voice. You wouldn't be looking your head down on the floor. You would be looking straight at them. In this sense, your camera is looking straight. You're looking straight at the camera, in a sense, looking straight at them. So we want to simulate as much of the natural human interaction as possible. Okay. And I hope that makes sense. So the way that you would talk and meet with a person, you wouldn't talk to them at the side of your mouth or the side of your face and turn your body halfway around them, nor would you be looking up at the ceiling, right? So those are just things to be very, very mindful of. Okay.
And Chelsea, this is Raul real quick, if I may interject.
Yes.
And if you want to cover this is great. But I think one thing that's important, both from a practical and technical level, is that participants should know where their camera is, because we take it for granted, we people who use cameras all the time, but someone who's new to this might not know exactly where it is on their iPhone or their iPad or their computer. Right. So if you could touch on that a little bit.
Oh, thank you so much, Raul. I almost forgot. Okay, so if those of you who have bump dots and it doesn't matter what size bump dot, you could even use a piece of tape for all I care, rolled up into a ball. It doesn't need to be expensive, and you don't need to go buy anything crazy off of Amazon just to make it happen. But like if you have a bump dot that's adhesive right on the other side, or a piece of tape, usually most built-in cameras in most laptops are going to be top center. So if you run your fingers to the top of your screen, okay, and then move your fingers to the center top of the screen, there's for Macs, for sure, I know this because I have a Mac, is that it's in the front center. And George, I believe you're putting your thumb right on it, your finger on it when you were moving. Yes, there you go, George. I see your finger moving. So if any of you else who wants to move your fingers around, I can possibly see your fingers moving on your camera. Now, once you find that though, okay, find a bump dot, find a piece of tape, whatever, and put it next to it, not on it, because if you put it on it, obviously you're gonna black out and I won't see it. Nobody's gonna see you. But there's also things that you can buy on Amazon. Now, for those of you who do want to spend some money, okay, there are these little pieces of stickers that has a moving closing, kind of like it slides back and forth, and it can close and open your screen camera that's embedded inside your computer. You could even do that with a piece of tape. If you want to, tape it down, tape it up and down, take it on and off, whatever. But that's important. Now on your phone, okay, on your iPhone, or I don't have an Android, but I'm assuming Androids are the same. And maybe Raul, you can speak on this, because I think Terrence and I both have iPhones. On an iPhone, I have the, still an antiquated 7 Plus, but it's on your upper, the front facing camera is on your upper, like off center to the left. Okay, on the top of my screen, on the top of my phone. The back facing camera, you can actually feel it because it's actually slightly elevated, and you can feel that with your fingertips. Okay, so just keep that in mind of when you're, using your hand gestures to toggle between front facing or back facing cameras. So that's something to be mindful of. So when you're doing on a phone, the best advice is hold your camera straight out in front of you, okay? And then position it so you're holding your arm center to your body and level with your face, okay? So center to your body and level with your face. And then that way, the camera can be facing you at all times. All right, so just keep that in mind, because if you're going to be holding it all kinds of ways on a phone, it can be very disorienting for someone who's sighted to be seeing your screen. It's like they can get motion sickness almost from watching all the movement on your screen if you don't have it on video shut off mode. Okay, if you're going around listening to a meeting and just listening and not, not actively participating, and you still have your video on, it's extremely distracting. And I think it's almost kind of rude to have it set out that way, because it looks like you're really not paying attention whatsoever. You're going around your house cleaning or doing laundry or whatever. All right. Does that help, Raul? Do we have any, is there anything else that I should add on that part?
I think real quick to add, I think it's important that folks understand, because there are people who, for example, who have never had vision before, and as a technology teacher and an independent living, presenter, I've come across people who, that if I talk about, for example, the concept that the further away the camera is from you, the more it's going to capture, versus the closer it is, the less it will capture. That doesn't sink in right away unless we really spell it out sometimes. And so I think it's important to know with our audience, does everybody understand that? And does everybody understand the term tilt and angle? Like when you angle the camera backward versus tilting it left and right. We need to be sure that everybody's clear on those basic terms, so that way if a sighted person is helping and they say, tilt the camera backwards or rotate it left or, whatever, we need to understand what those mean.
Okay, so yeah, so if you, I love that, and if I can, I'll go ahead and expand on that. So like Raul said, if you hold your camera further away from you, the more of your whole body image that somebody's going to be able to see. So when I said earlier, if you're holding your phone, and using Zoom, or whether it's a FaceTime, or whether it's Facebook Messenger, or whatever, right? When you hold it away from you at arm's length and you hold it center to your body and at your face level, people are gonna see your head, your neck, your shoulders, and your upper body when it's at arm's length. Now, when you start let's just say you have it propped up on a desk, I don't know, 6 feet away from you or so, they're going to see your whole body most likely. Okay. So but if you're holding your phone basically at, with your arms bent, holding it in front of you, basically all they're going to see is your head. Now, when you tilt the camera up towards the ceiling, they're going to only see maybe your eyebrows and your eyes. If you tilt it down while you're holding the phone, or then they're only going to see maybe your nose, your mouth, your neck, and your upper chest. And that's not what you would want somebody to necessarily see, because the most ideal positioning is to be making eye contact and looking straight at somebody. So that's why I say, if you hold your camera vertical, straight up and down, arm's length away from you, okay, not tilted in any kind of way, but then it's centered to your body and centered to your head, then it's going to give the simulation as if you are looking straight at them and speaking to them in person. And what that does is it also creates a connection with your audience. Okay. When people who are, who see you looking straight at them or talking straight at them, they feel more connected to you as a presenter and a speaker. Okay. So I hope that helps. And, just remember, anything off center away from the center of your face, whether it's turned to the left, okay, that's going to show one side of your body. If it's turned, your camera's turned to the right, it's going to show another side of your body, or it'll show a side profile of just the side of your face, not the front of your face. So those are all these things to kind of keep in mind. The further the way, whether it's a laptop or whether it's a phone camera, the further away it is from you, the more of your full body that the person is going to see on the other side. The closer it is to you, the closer it is, basically in a sense, like the closer the camera is to you, it's like a person seeing smaller parts of your body. For me, when I'm teaching online makeup classes, I ask my clients sometimes to move closer to the camera so I can see them put on their eye makeup, because I want to see a more microscopic view of something. So think about, do you want that kind of view, or do you not want that kind of view? If you're only dressed from the top up and you're wearing boxer shorts that day and you have a tie and a jacket on your upper body, you don't want a full body image. You don't want them to see that you've got boxer shorts on and no, socks that don't match or whatever. That's not the most professional look. But if you only want to see the upper half, then you're going to want to position your camera so that it only sees the upper half of your body. And that's when it's going to be more centered on your desk. Okay. All right. So I think we spent a lot of good information on that. Does anybody have any questions on that? Go ahead and raise your hands and parents can help answer some questions. And if not, then I'll move on to the next part.
You have Muhammad, George, Max, Cheryl, Glenda, and Chris, and Nicole. You have a lot of questions. Okay. So go ahead, Muhammad.
Okay, hold on. Before we open the floor for questions, because there's so many questions and because I am on a limited amount of time, I would limit you all to not a comment, but please 1 question per person. And so if we can go ahead and go with that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I have just one request. As per my known, Houston has a lot of navigation tools they set up on the city, like a beacon, iBeacon. So I like to see how to work on iBeacon on Blind Square on the next time. If you have any option, so just do it, because we face a lot of problem for navigation. So I know I see on the YouTube, Houston City set up all the bus stop, subway, everywhere, metro station, they set up a lot of iBeacons. And I need to see how to work on the Blind Square and all the navigation apps.
Okay, I don't know what iBeacon is. I think that sounds like some kind of travel or navigation app. Is that right?
No, it's a tools. It's a machine. It's a small Bluetooth. They set up on the all bus stops, all subway, and it's work on the Blind Square, all the navigation apps. But I see,
real
because
quick,
I'm in Canada.
So Mohammed, unless your question is about what Chelsea was talking about with setting up video on Zoom and camera.
Okay. So next time, if you have any option, just set up for navigation apps for training.
Yeah, Mohammed,
So
what you want to do is fill out the survey and put that put their suggestions in the survey when we do the follow-up survey.
I mean, in
There's a
Canada,
space
there's
for
not
that.
more accessible for the navigation apps. So I need to see how to work on the USA.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll please, like Terrence said, fill out the form and just let us know in the future. But if all questions moving forward, please have it pertain to Zoom etiquette or camera settings and as such. But we would love to talk about that in the future. Thank you. Next question, please.
I have a question, George.
Yes, hi, George.
It just, we need to show pictures at our meetings, at our Zoom meetings, and I never seem to get it right. So I'm holding up a picture and I don't know what to do. The people keep saying go left or go right or go closer, but they have to identify the pictures, and these are historical pictures. So it's part of a history group that I'm in. So any suggestions on how to hold up a picture so I get it in there?
Okay, so when you hold up a picture, you're doing a pretty darn good job of it, but you're a bit too close, so I can't see all of it. So again, sit at arm's length away from the camera. Okay, there you go. Now hold it up a little bit higher, and there you go. So that's great because I can see the whole picture that you're holding, and now you're center to the camera. But because it's so large, they may ask you to just move the picture forward, stretch out your arms straight in front of you, and then they can see more of the detail. And then that's when you can move it up, down, left, right, according to their description. So that's how you can show that. Does that help, George?
Yes, that's a big help. I didn't know about arm's length. That's really good.
Yeah.
No, I can't see the picture that clearly myself. So I can't see if it's clear or not clear. So rely on the people. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, rely on them. And you know what? Ask them, hey guys, is this clear? Is it not clear? Do you want me to move it up? Do you want me to move it down? And if you use your arm's length as well as your own head and your own body as kind of like guides as to where you position the camera and where you position the picture, then that's going to give you some really good, solid post marks. You know what I mean? Like guideposts. Yes. Perfect. And that goes with everybody. So, all right.
What do you mean by postmark? I was
like guideposts, like basically like where to center things and where to hold things. That's going to be like your guide. If you use your head, your upper body, your arm's length, all of that, that's going to be your guide as to where to position things.
Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Next question.
Max.
Hi there. What I'm trying to figure out is where I should put my camera, because the problem is my camera's on a desktop tower that's on my left-hand side, so I can't easily put the camera. Well, I could put it in front of me, but it would be way down to my chest here. So I was trying to line it up so at least people could see my face.
Oh, is this Max who's speaking?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, okay, there you are. Okay, so basically, Max, like I believe earlier, I'm still seeing your side profile. Okay, you're not in front of the screen. I don't know.
What about now?
Now I see your closet and all the other stuff on the other side of your desk.
Elsie, he
okay.
has you remember the old school webcams that were detachable?
Yeah, this isn't.
He has
Yeah,
one
this
of
is.
those. It's not
That's
on the
what I
computer.
use. Yeah, this is on my computer on my desktop. I don't have a built-in cam. This
no,
is what. Yeah. So I was
Yeah.
trying to find a way to face it towards me, so
Okay,
people could
so-
see my face.
So Max,
Yeah.
you are still, can you somehow turn your body towards, or only are you seated straight in front of your computer, or
Yes,
are you?
I am.
Okay, so your camera is the one that's kind of angled.
Yes.
Position it again, move, there you go. Now it's more towards your body, but now
Okay.
I see you went too far. With cameras, you have to think of like micro movements, like very, very small movements. When I say move left, move right, don't turn it too hard or too fast, because what happens,
Okay.
it moves it way too far.
Okay.
So Max, I see your left elbow, basically. Yeah, I know.
Okay. What about now?
Now I see a little bit more. Inch it towards the center a little bit more. Turn it very, very lightly. There you go. Now stop. Stop right
Okay.
there. I
Yeah.
see chest. I see the logo on your t-shirt or your sweater jacket, your sweater. But now you need to incrementally, very, very tiny, move the camera up a little bit so that I can actually see your face.
Let me see if I can. Oh,
Just, okay, now I see your chin. You need
oh, okay.
more so I could see your nose and your
A bit
eyes.
higher. Okay. There.
Now I see half of your nose.
Higher.
A little higher, and it's better to do it small like that.
Okay.
Now,
Okay.
I see half of your forehead, so now you're good for the face. But if you can move your chair further away, I can see more of your body. If that yes,
There you go.
there you go. Now you're on the bottom right of the camera, but you're not.
Okay.
But still, it's a lot better than what it was. So
Okay. Well, thank you.
Max, reach out to me after the call. I'll work with you one-on-one. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Next question. Oh, and
Carol.
Max, one thing. For those of you who have cameras like Max, when you get somebody to fix it for you like that, please, please, please get tape, whether it's painter's tape, masking tape, something to stick it there and not let it move. Because one of the biggest problems I have with my blind clients is that those cameras are constantly shifting. And if they move they adjust something or they accidentally tap it, the whole thing falls to the floor. Then we have to start all over again. And that's probably like 30 minutes of just readjusting the camera. But once you get it positioned exactly the way it needs to be, just secure it in place.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next question.
Cheryl.
When you were telling me a while ago to adjust and move down, my camera is built within. And so I didn't know what you meant by down. When I think of down, I think up to the floor and up to the ceiling. So I just tilted my screen back. Was that
okay?
What I
Yeah, sorry about that. Okay, so for those of you who are on a laptop, okay, like I'm presenting from a laptop right now.
I'm on a laptop right now.
Okay, when I say move your camera down, since it's embedded into your camera, into your computer, pull the screen, the top of the laptop towards you, towards your body. That will adjust the camera down.
Is this it?
Okay, let me see if I can find you. I have to search for you amongst everybody. Hold on.
I'm sorry, I just did not understand.
You are Cheryl. There you are.
She's on the first participant screen.
Okay, so when you pull it towards your body as if you were closing your laptop, that's going to put your camera down. If you push against it and push it away from you so that it lays, either straight up and down towards the ceiling, or the further back that you push your laptop top, it's going to start facing towards the ceiling more and more and more. Does that make sense, Cheryl?
Kind of. And so what was it? You said you couldn't see my forehead?
You were leaning forward. So go ahead and sit up straight for me so I can see how you're positioned.
Okay. I've got me a fairly good back to my chair and I'm about as close to the table as I could be.
You are perfect.
Okay. So
Okay.
basically it's a slight, for everybody, instead of it being straight up 90 degrees like that, I'm moving the screen just slightly at an angle toward me.
Yes, and everybody's computer is different. But remember, because everybody's tables are different levels, everybody's camera screens are at different levels, everybody's body positioning is different. So, you know, but yes, generally, you know, when you close your laptop, okay, the camera is going to be going down and further down towards the bottom half of your body. If you push it away from you, that's going to make the camera screen go up towards the ceiling. And then people start seeing up towards your nose, up, you know, into your nostrils.
So do I have it at a good angle right now?
You have it perfect. I would not touch it anymore at all.
Okay.
So,
All right.
And here's another tip for everybody. Okay. I forgot about this because I don't remember things until I talk about them. When you have your laptop perfectly situated the way it needs to be with your chair, with your desk, with your table, get some masking tape or some duct tape and tape the outer edges of where your laptop is sitting. When you tape it with duct tape, or you do, like, even if you take a ruler and tape down that ruler on both sides, now, even if you took your your laptop and took it to your bed or took it to another room, those markers tape or those rulers will always be in the same spot that you'll always need them in the future. Does that make sense, Cheryl?
Yes, I see what you mean, but I don't know where I would put a marker here, where to put it right now.
You would just run it on both sides of your laptop, on the left and on the right, and you would tape it to the table.
Oh, tape the laptop to the table.
No. You would put duct tape on the table, on the outer edges, on the outer sides of your laptop, only on the table, because now anytime you feel that duct tape with your fingertips, you're going to know exactly where to place your laptop on top of it.
Oh, sure. So you just put a piece of tape on the table where I have it, and that's where I place the laptop.
Correct.
Exactly.
Okay, but is there any way to have a reference with the angle other than it's slightly angled like I told y'all?
Oh, okay. So here's an idea. Do you know what a project nah. Okay. If you can cut okay, I don't know. I haven't ever thought about that one yet.
We can answer that later.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that one, but that's a good one, Cheryl.
Okay, and also, how can I contact you all?
I will give my information at the end of this call.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, who's next, Terrence?
Next is Nicole.
Hi, Nicole. You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I need to move back more, or?
You are perfect, my lady.
Okay.
You look great. I love it. Your lighting is great because you actually have lighting towards your face. Cheryl, you have lighting all behind and around you, but it's making your face dark. Whereas Nicole, you have I think you're sitting in front of a window. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Would I be better off to turn the lights off?
No. I mean, no, you're fine. You're fine. I'll work with you later, Cheryl.
Okay, we're gonna have to meet one-on-one sometime, okay?
Okay. But Nicole, and anybody who can, like I said earlier on the call, if at all possible, have a lamp on your desk where you can turn it on and off, and the light can either shine at you at night, or if you're facing a window, then the natural sunlight will face you during the daytime. And I love natural sunlight because that's usually the most flattering. Fluorescent lights start to change your color, and sometimes you start looking orange or, you know, things like that. But natural sunlighting is usually the best. So Nicole, you're great.
So I don't need to move my laptop screen anymore?
Nope, you don't. And what I like about the way that you're seated in that you have a chair with a high back, which is great. Just body posture is try to sit up a little bit straighter with your shoulders back a little bit more. And it's also great the way that you're sitting, because I can see half of your upper half of body. I can see your hands if you're taking notes, or I can see your hands if you're waving at me or something like that. And it's really nice to be able to see that body language. So just keep your body language in mind and that your shoulders are always up, straight, and back, and you're sitting straight. Okay, that just exudes a lot more confidence. And I like the fact that you're looking straight at me, because now I can see your eye contact, I can see your facial expressions and any kind of other expressions on your face. That kind of connects me with you when I'm talking. It kind of feels like you're in the same room with me almost. So
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I love your smile. So always smile, smile, smile.
Thank you.
Okay, next.
Edwin.
Hi, Edwin.
Hi. I just want to know if I'm using it correctly. Can you see me?
I can. Hold on. You just popped away from my screen. Hold on. I gotta go look for you again. You disappeared on me.
Oh, sorry. He would slide down.
Okay. So Edwin, you're holding it on your phone, right?
Right.
Okay. You're moving a whole lot. So when you keep on moving, your hands are moving, your body is moving, it's causing a lot of distraction if you and I were in a meeting together. Okay. So I would say either number one, because right now I only see your, I see your nose, the upper top part of your nose, and you're in the bottom right corner of the screen. And I see mostly your ceiling, and I see your forehead and the top of your head. Now you just adjusted it. So now I can see half of your face and your up to your neck and upper shoulders. Now I only see the right side of your face, and you need to adjust it so that turn it so that I can see, let's see, how would you turn your camera? Now, whatever you're doing, I'm seeing more of your face moving into the camera. So turn it down, tilt. So when you're holding it, move your hand, adjust it so it's tilting forward towards you. The camera is towards you. The closer though, don't move your arm, because if you bend your elbow, the more you bend your elbow, the closer you're bringing the camera to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And I see close up to your face, but I don't see your whole face. So now turn your hand so that your wrist is turning to the left. There you go. Now tilt the camera down towards the floor a little bit. Nope, nope, nope. Forward. Come towards your body. Come towards your body. Come towards your head. Keep your elbow straight out and down. Keep your arms straight out. Keep your arms straight out. There you go. Now your camera is facing towards the ceiling. So you hold your wrist and then face it down towards your chest a little bit. Like hold it, pull. Yeah. Keep on going down a little bit more. So that's better. You're getting better. But again, Edwin, reach out to me at the end. I would highly suggest you order a type of holder so that your phone can sit inside that holder and stay in a stationary position when you're using your phone. Because doing long-term meetings with holding the phone in your hand is not only going to be tiring for your hand, but it's not going to be consistent. Okay. And it's going to be very distracting if you're constantly moving around like that. So you're going to need to choose a spot in your house to use, like a table or a desk, and then purchase on Amazon or whatever a holder. Or you can even use books. You can even use books and boxes to adjust it and keep the camera in a certain way and tape it down so that it doesn't keep on moving. Does that make sense, Edwin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so yeah, contact me afterwards. We can work on that one-on-one, okay? Thank you. You're welcome. All right. How are we at?
We have Sandia, Elisa, Chris, and Glenda.
Okay, great. Hi, Sandia. You're
Hey,
up.
girl. I think I know the answer, but I'll ask you anyway. We have these weekly staff meetings. First of all, can you see me okay? Right?
Your camera is off.
Okay, so anyway.
Yeah.
I am not real crazy about all of those people, and I'm like, I don't want to deal with them. So I haven't been turning on my camera. Is that rude?
Yes.
Yes.
It is rude if now I'll say this, if they have asked you to turn it on.
No, nobody's asked me to turn it on.
Okay, good. Well, then if nobody's asked you to turn it on and they don't make it mandatory, then it's not rude. because
Oh, good.
that's not a requirement for the meeting, right?
No, it's not. Some
Yeah.
people call it on the phone, so not everybody is seeing everybody.
Exactly. So most of my Haven meetings, and honestly, right now my camera is off because, you know, I'm not like camera ready. I just had surgery last week. I'm not feeling my best. And so I have my profile photo up. So it's totally okay. But I would suggest this, Sandia, is to have one of your favorite photos that maybe is like a professional photo with your upper half of your body showing your face, your shoulders, and your upper body, and just having that to upload as your profile image so that they for those who can see on the screen, see a smiling, happy face, if you would like, instead of just the word Sandia with eye bug, right?
Okay. Okay.
Raul here, if I could add something.
Yes.
And if you guys mentioned this, I apologize because I kind of tuned out and then tuned in. I was in the process of picking the winner for the door prize. So I think also to consider is your target audience. So for example, if I know that I'm coming into a meeting where there's going to be a lot of dial-in participants, like you mentioned, or the participants themselves are blind, or it's been established, it's not a requirement, then I generally don't do it. But if it's a meeting where I know that there's going to be sighted people, and it's a meeting where I'm presenting, like I'll give an example that, you know, Stacy and I joined Toastmasters. And while many of the Toastmasters in this particular club are blind, there are sighted people there as well. And so I will typically turn my video on for that. You know, it is part of a requirement where they don't make it a requirement if you're only participating and just doing minimal stuff. But if you have a role, whether you're a timer or when you're doing a speech, then they do ask you to turn the video on. And so in that sense, again, going on to what Chelsea said, because they asked you, then it would be rude to keep it off. And so again, just kind of consider your target audience.
Yeah, it's a staff meeting, so I probably should have it on so they know I'm really there, but I just
Even if you had it on for the first 5 minutes to say that you're there, you know, just to establish your presence and then turn it off if nobody says anything. You know, that's what I would do, you know, if you did that.
And I'm going to add to that, Raul, is that in Sandia, sometimes I have these like online trainings where I'm not necessarily facilitating, but I am participating. And in order to show my active participation, I'll, just like Raul said, I'll pop in and out, 5 minutes here, camera on, 5 minutes there, you know, I'll get off for 20, 30 minutes, and then I'll get back on. If I'm asking a question to the presenter and I want them to see that I'm really present, okay, then I'll turn my camera on, you know, and do that. Because in the end of the day, okay, because we are in virtual mode and we don't have the ability to know whether or not a person is a live person is on the other side when they have their camera off, right? Because the thing is, like, when the camera's off, people could literally be totally checked out. They could literally be, you know, sleeping for all you know, right?
Yes.
And there have been instances where they have caught people using the toilet and taking their phone into the toilet or something. It's kind of crazy, but I'm just saying that on a meeting like that, just pop in and out, like Raul said, as long as it's not like mandatory. And, but also with that, have a nice professional photo. And it just, when people see a smiling, happy face, it just makes it more warm and welcoming. And it also makes a good impression because they remember who you are on the meeting instead of a name. The human eye or the human brain recognizes and remembers images more than they remember words on a page. So for if you have a mixed group of people who are sighted and non-sighted, it really does help the people who are sighted. But like when I ever do my ACB workshops or my Haven calls, we mostly just do that on audio. So
yeah, these are all sighted people, so I better try to get my act together. I've been living in my nightgown, so that's part of the problem. So
no, I totally understand.
So you
all
don't
right,
look
thank
pretty,
you.
Sandy.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, living in our nightgowns, but that's why you have a backup professional profile photo.
Okay, I'll work on that. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome, girl.
Hey, Lisa.
So you know how you mentioned about profile pictures, I think?
Say that again. How do we mute profile photos?
No, you mentioned about profile photos. Do you know how mine looks?
Oh, on yours. Okay. This is the picture I took of you, Elisa, standing in front of City Hall. So, you know, that day that you came to do a tour of the City Hall, but, and it's good. I like it because it's a full body photo. I love your picture. I think it's great. But if you want something that is even more welcoming, do one of a profile shot, and that's going to be half body of your shoulders, your half of your chest, shoulders, and head, because then that way people can see more focus on your face rather than the full body. It's just more warm and welcoming when people can see more of the face.
Could you help me one of these days to do that?
Yeah. Like I said, we can do a chat later on, I think, and but we'll talk about that. Yes. I'm
Okay.
with other people too.
Thank you,
Lisa. Okay, who's next?
Chris.
Chris?
Hi, thanks a lot for taking my call. I know I'm guilty for not having my camera on, and I will admit I never do.
You know what? It's okay, Chris.
I'll explain for a minute. So you talk a lot about light.
Yes.
And stuff like that. Now, thinking about my own situation, I'm a person who doesn't have vision anymore, used to have vision, but one of the biggest challenges I always used to have, and still do to an effect, is that part of my eye condition is actually light sensitivity.
Ah.
A lot of the times I would sit in the dark, or I would have dark glasses on because there was no choice. Otherwise, if you're looking at me on the camera with all these lights in my face, you're going to look at me with closed eyes. So this is one area. I don't know if you have any suggestion, one, but two, I'm sorry to say, but this is kind of an area to be mindful of when you're talking about cameras and all kinds of lights and stuff.
Oh yeah, no.
I quite literally could not see unless I wore dark glasses or closed the blinds.
I see. So you see better with night, like low
Well,
light.
I don't have vision anymore, but I still do have, I guess, a bit of light sensitivity. So my eyes tend to, and this would be anybody with light sensitivity.
Right.
The more you flash, the worse it's going to be.
Right. So, and I thank you, first of all, Chris, for educating me on that, because, you know, I'm learning all the time. And as I work with the blind community, I'm constantly becoming aware of the needs, and as things change, especially with the virtual. So thank you so much for sharing your personal situation with the lighting and making that known, because I wasn't really fully aware of that, you know, thinking about that. So thank you for that. And number two is, I would suggest that at least have, now you had, wait, you said that if I could see you, I would look at you with closed eyes. I don't.
Maybe not closed eyes necessarily, but when the light is bright, more often than not, maybe more before than now, because I don't see anything now except light. My eyes would be more closed because the light gets so bright that it gets irritating. So the choice was dark glasses.
Oh, okay.
Or close the blinds and the lights.
Okay, Chris. So here's the thing. I have plenty of friends who wear shades and like glasses. I mean, what is it? Just sunglasses.
Yeah.
And they look great. And I have a student actually who wears his, anytime he's out in public doing a presentation, we're teaching together, standing in front of an audience or whatever, he always wears his sunglasses, okay? Because he's very light sensitive as well. And actually, I think one of his, he doesn't have an eye in one of his eyes are totally gone, okay? So he doesn't want to, you know, make that a distraction for people. And so he wears his sunglasses. And so I would suggest that wearing your shades is perfectly okay. And having dim lighting, if you'd like, is totally okay. And even if you wanted to have a profile photo,
smiling, because people, yeah, a smile is universal, okay? And people, it makes you more warm and welcoming. And then have a picture where you're wearing your shades with a nice plain background and have it look very professional is also something that you could put up on the screen, okay, all the time. And then when you unmute yourself and you talk, then that people know that you're there, you're engaging. If you put things into the chat or you raise your hand or things like that, that's another way to show people, hey, I'm here. I'm not just sleeping somewhere with my screen off.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that's the way to stay engaged and interactive without necessarily having to have your screen on, because having a light on you can cause you to, be sensitive to it, and that's okay. So, if you'd like, reach out to me afterwards and I'll work with you to see what kind of lighting is good for you and what's lighting is good enough for me to see you, if it's even required, right? So,
Okay,
yeah.
that makes sense. There's been a lot of discussion even with my colleagues up here who, some people struggle with the fact that I can't see, it kind of goes, I can't see you. So therefore having the camera off is you being equal to me.
And this is Raul real quick, just so everyone's aware of time. We're down to about 5 minutes left. And so we wanted to kind of close up and, it's for final.
Well, don't worry about what I just said. We'll go.
Yeah.
Okay,
so definitely get with Chelsea offline if possible. And you can always send us an email to havin.tx@gmail.com. And that way, if anything needs to be forwarded to a certain presenter or whatever, we'll be able to go ahead and do that.
You know what? I love that suggestion, Raul. Instead of everybody reaching out to me, whenever you get the HAVIN questionnaire and survey after this meeting, please, please, please put in there if you want to reach out to me, contact me, or have questions for me or Raul or Terrence or anything, and we will follow up with you, because it's a lot easier to remember the HAVIN website than for me to give you my long one.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. And this is Stacy real quick. One thing that I want to say, and we've done this several times ourselves, is if you have IRA, if you're an IRA subscriber, you can use IRA to assist you with positioning of your camera. So that's another tool that you can keep in your toolbox.
Yeah, and you can also use Be My Eyes, which is free. It's not non-professional people, but hey, it's free. So thank you for adding that, Stacy. I had so many more pages to my slides, but since we're on like the last 5 minutes, let me see if there's anything that I didn't cover really quickly. And again, the website, fill out those surveys, please put in your information. We'll follow up with you. And it's HAVIN?
HAVINTX.org or
the email address?
Yeah.
havin.tx@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So HAVIN.tx@gmail.com.
Perfect. Okay. So let me see if I can hit this really quick. I've got 4 minutes left because I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Dressing for success. Okay. Be mindful to dress from head to toe if you're doing something really important where you might be showing your whole body. If you're not going to show your body, be mindful to turn the camera off when you stand up if you're wearing boxer shorts or nothing on the bottom. Just throwing it in there, people. All right. Another thing is, check your technology. Make sure that all your technology is working, plugged in, charged, and all that kind of stuff. Audio, and making sure all your audio, remember all those features that Raul talked about. Okay. Here's another one that I really didn't have a chance to talk a lot about. Please, please, please make sure that the background in your room is not cluttered and full of dirty laundry, dirty dishes. It makes a poor impression, whether you can think about it or not. People on the other side of that screen who are sighted are looking to see what's in the background. Okay. So if you don't want to worry about that, then use a green screen or some kind of virtual background. And I don't remember if Raul covered that or not yet, but hopefully if he didn't, maybe we can cover it in a future meeting or something. But I love virtual backgrounds because they're just nice, clean, and simple. And you don't have to worry about what's going on in your own house. Also, if you're sitting in a way that people can be walking behind you, that can be very distracting sometimes, if you're in a mixed group with a sighted audience as well. So again, try to see if your back can be against a wall or a window, a wall, so that there's not people walking back and forth behind you. Okay, what else do we have? We have 2 more minutes. So keep it uncluttered, okay? And proper lighting, we cover that quite a bit. Have the light facing you. Natural lighting is the best, or have a lamp in front of you. And then if you're in a meeting and stuff, just always have questions and points ready to talk about things, so that you're not wasting too much time of everybody else's with things that may not be relevant. Stick to the allotted time. Join the call. Another thing of etiquette is always join the call ahead of time. If you're the host, be on there at least 15 to 30 minutes before. With our HAVIN group, we always do that, and come prepared, right? Another thing is, if you're late, just as if you were in a real meeting, basic etiquette is just apologize and say sorry if everybody is still in audience, like just general mode. But once a presentation starts, just try to be as quiet as possible and not be disruptive. You don't have to, say, oh, I'm sorry, I'm late, and that just makes it worse. Stay on mute. Everybody's been doing a great job of that. So I think you all have that covered. And speak and present clearly so that people can hear you, and that they hear what you have to say. Be yourself, have fun, okay? A lot of these meetings can be very long and dry and boring, okay? But if you're in an environment that is not super serious or super conservative or whatever, right? Then go ahead and add your personality, add some jokes in there, engage with your audience and just be natural. It doesn't have to be like a stiff meeting. Laugh and add jokes that we do with HAVIN and all these other meetings at times, if it's appropriate. And always, another big etiquette thing is never, ever bring up very hot topics like politics, religion, and controversial issues that can cause a big rift for a lot of people. So that is all my information for today. I really hope that everybody has enjoyed it.
And remember, we still have a gift card.
Woohoo! Okay, so I'm gonna now, again, please fill out the surveys, contact us if you have any further questions, and I'm handing it back over to you, Raul.
All right, thank you, Chelsea. And to kind of acknowledge keeping it light, I will share this, that I just opened my gas bill and my water bill, and it was quite shocking. All right, bad dad joke, I get it.
Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is, I have a Zoom card. I got Zoom on the brain. I've got an Amazon gift card to give to one lucky person. But before I do that, I want to share the results of the poll. So about 21, 22 people answered the poll. And here are the results. 95% of people have been using Zoom for at least a year. So that kind of tells me most everyone has had some participation or some experience with Zoom. So that I did not know that. The next one, it says, how do you primarily access Zoom? It's a multiple choice with different devices. 48% from Windows, 19% from Mac, 57% from iOS devices, 24% from Android, and 0 from a landline, in terms of, the folks, which kind of makes sense considering that landline folks can't participate in the poll. So I think that's kind of a telling thing. So the last one is, which one are you interested in learning about? Participating only was 1 person, 5%. Hosting was 3 people, 14%. And both was the big one. Most everybody answered that. That was 81%. So that's our poll results. Thank you for those of you who were able and willing to participate with that.
I'm definitely
and Now we are going to announce the winner of the Amazon gift card. It's for $25. And if Chris, there's a Chris on the line. If you are here, please raise your hand.
I don't see a Chris.
No Chris?
Ooh, Chris had the last question, so he must have left.
Oh.
All right. Well, let me pick another one.
You have to be present to win, Raul?
You do have to be present to win.
Okay.
Maxwell, is Maxwell here?
Yes,
Max,
I'm here.
Max is
All
here.
right. All right, Maxwell, you have won a $25 gift card from Amazon. So we will get with you. I have your information here from your registration. So we will reach out to you off list and get you set up.
Thank you. All right. All right. Good stuff. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, everybody, and stay tuned for a survey and keep in touch and keep zooming
Great
on.
job.
Y'all enjoy the rest.